Hi and welcome to this week's Three Legs Four Wheels F1 podcast. It's Paul here with
Sean,
Chris,
Lee.
We made it through the first triple header. It's been going on that long I can't remember.
Double header
was
last week.
Yeah, it's been three. We got a week off this week.
I know, it's crazy.
Right, we'll see you later. Yeah, we had three races on the bounce after we were told it would never happen again, and now we got a week off before another 3 races on the bounce.
There's another 3, 2 Britons and a Spain.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about Hungary first.
Yes,
I think it's better. By the way, I know teams have got to think about personnel and drive and families and things like that. But I think as a sport to watch, the rapid hit races,
it gets you into it,
are
doesn't
a
it? As
good
a season,
thing,
you
yeah.
don't have that 2-week period where you're like, "Oh, what happened again?"
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There are other motorsport series, mainly ones that turn left, that do that, and you just think, hang on, look at the year last week. Oh no, that all looks identical.
Yeah.
Well, we did that Formula 1, the Styrian and the Austrian Grand Prix.
Two completely different circuits in 2 completely different parts of Austria. One was in Austria, one was in Styria. Different.
Not at all.
You know, Austrian Grand Prix are exciting, Styrian Grand Prix are a little bit subdued.
And the Hungarian Grand Prix was one of those where it kind of looked like something was always going to happen, but then nothing happened. Like, it's raining, here comes the rain. The rain never really arrived. And then...
The tyres are falling off.
No, that's just Ferrari.
Yep.
Again, though, it made me think back to what I was saying about the Austrian and Styrian Grand Prix, about Red Bull, and how have Mercedes took a step forward, or have Red Bull almost took a step back?
I think both.
Yeah, because if you look at who was the second best car in Hungary, it was last year's Mercedes.
Yeah.
So, last year's Mercedes was almost as good as this year's Mercedes. So Mercedes have moved forward.
Yeah.
And then, I'm not saying that the Racing Point is exactly last year's Mercedes, but,
No, that's for the FIA to decide, and then probably the Court of Arbitration for Sport after that.
But like this time last year, we'd have just finished watching a cracker of a race between Hamilton and Verstappen for a win.
Yeah, and was it Hamilton had 20 laps to catch up, like nearly 20 seconds, and he did it and passed him. So, I think... I know what you're saying. You think Red Bull maybe have fallen back. I think they have too, because I can remember when we first knew the calendar, and we were thinking of 2 races at Spielberg and 1 at the Hungaroring. It's like, well, these are Verstappen circuits.
Yeah.
And Verstappen has not won a single race. Mercedes have won all 3 races. And these are supposed to be circuits that Mercedes aren't particularly usually strong at.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's the thing is, clearly Mercedes have surprised Red Bull, because Red Bull were like champing at the bit to get the season going, because they thought they could compete with Mercedes this year. Yep. They thought they had the machinery to do it. Fuck no if they got the machinery to do it.
I think they have. They just don't know how to make it work yet.
I don't know. Maybe. I'd find it interesting that they're having aero problems, because like all like pioneers, you get to a point where your pioneering stops. And I wonder whether Adrian Newey has hit the... it feels bad saying it because of how important he's been to Formula One, but there is a talent wall.
He's hit the insurmountable cliff.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at all the great car designers, and
just great people at doing things, be it athletes or artists or musicians.
I don't want to say jump the shark, but
Baby Shark, they never beat it. They'll never beat it.
No, there was enough Baby Shark comments on Discord.
Mine it was the do 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 do. Paul changed it into the Baby Shark song.
Baby Shark song was pretty popular around these parts for a hot minute.
Yeah, a minute.
It just felt like a lifetime. I mean, talking about Red Bull going backwards, what the hell is going on with the way that they're treating Albon? Because there's something definitely wrong with that, and I saw this pointed out, I think it was somebody on Discord earlier. We're using this Discord a hell of a lot.
Yeah. Why not? It's there.
Saw somebody point out that Christian Horner has said, people having a go at Albon, they don't really know what they're talking about. They don't understand. And then compared that with a story from this time last year, just before the summer break, people going on about Gasly, they're wrong, they don't know what
Yeah,
they're going
yeah,
on about.
same
And then
statement.
30 seconds later, Gasly was demoted.
Well, our friend and regular guest, Virtual Statman, put up on Twitter yesterday that last year's Hungarian Grand Prix, Pierre Gasly finished, Max Verstappen finished second, and Pierre Gasly finished sixth, one lap down. This year's Hungarian Grand Prix, Max Verstappen finished second, and Alex Albon finished fifth and one lap down. Is it the car or is it the driver? That's what Sean's point was.
I think as well when you've got like George Russell coming out and quite strongly defending Albon and the
He's
way he's been
good
treated,
guy.
and criticising a big team at the front of the field for making someone look stupid, that suggests something is very wrong.
And then Max taking a pop at him for saying it.
But I think that George deserves a doff of the cap for that in a sport which is very cutthroat, and usually for drivers, regardless of how well they get on outside of Formula One, but for camera facing, usually quite isolated, because especially if you're a driver like George Russell, it's at the back of the grid. All anyone's ever thinking about is getting further up the grid. He obviously doesn't expect a Red Bull contract anytime soon.
No, of course not. Yeah.
I thought it showed real character. I thought it was really good.
It was for those who aren't aware of what he said. He said, him and and Alex Albon been racing with Charles Leclerc. Who else did he mention?
Max
Gasly,
Verstappen.
I think, was
Max
in the
Verstappen,
mix.
Pierre Gasly. Yeah, he said
Lando.
and Lando Norris. Yeah, the group of them came up through the formulas since karting together.
Yeah.
So they've been racing each other. And Alex has always been competitive. So for him to suddenly go to a team and not be competitive, it's not his fault. It's the car.
Yeah. It's strange because he was competitive last year as well, even when he just jumped in the car. From his first turn of the wheel, he was competitive.
Yeah.
I wonder though whether it's not necessarily what the car's going on. I wonder whether it's pressure that's with him. And my minor conspiracy theory here is that
Anyone got any tinfoil? Crinkle it now.
No, 'cause that was a terrible thing we were doing.
No. I was telling the listeners to crinkle it now. I'm not doing that anymore. I don't carry the tinfoil with me because you wore it all.
But I wonder whether the rumours of Vettel going back to Red Bull are still very much in motion, and how we see it quite a lot with drivers when it comes to contract times, when they court other teams to hurry the fucking another team up to give them a contract. And I wonder whether all this, because it's so out at the minute, Vettel speaking to Racing Point. I wonder whether it's a
ploy.
Well, it's a ploy and a safety net. It's if he could use that to try and force Red Bull's hand to say, look, this guy's not working out, take me back.
But the thing is, Alex Albon didn't have a terrible. We're not talking about the race review. We haven't got to Red Bull yet, of course. But Alex Albon went from 13th on the grid to 5th.
Oh, he had a good race
At a circuit where you're not really able to overtake an awful lot.
No,
so
especially when the mechanics spent absolutely zero time setting up his car because they damn tools and ran to rebuild Max's.
yeah, Albon basically had to set his own car up. He didn't because it was good to go. But
all he had was 2 hastily dropped spanners and a couple of leaf blowers.
Yeah,
Which were blowing the brakes, not the box.
Yes.
Yeah.
But is there anything to all these Seb rumours? You know what? I think my personal opinion is Vettel's already got a contract for next season, and this is all just conjecture.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's playing the media.
I don't think it's signed yet because of how out of the blue the Ferrari end was. Because I don't think Vettel thought he was leaving Ferrari this year.
No, he said that.
Yeah,
he said
when
he
he
didn't
turned up
know
in
Austria.
when it was announced. He had no idea.
Yeah, the very first press conference in Austria was he basically said that, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he said, and he said, what about the agreements on the table? And Seb came back with there were no agreements on the table.
Yeah.
So I don't know why that's been reported. There wasn't. I was just basically told I won't be needed after this year.
So
I think he's moved very quickly, and it's already wrapped up.
I think if it was already wrapped up, it will be announced.
I don't know.
It depends what it is, though, isn't it? If he's realistically, we're looking. The seats are available, probably going to be Racing Point and Red Bull potentially. But if Kimi's retiring,
I don't think
doesn't want to announce yet.
He wouldn't go that far down the grid.
Possibly.
Yeah, he said that. He said that as well in that interview with.
Yeah.
Martin Brundle. I don't know if anybody caught that on Sky.
Saw some of it, but apparently they released a full 13-minute version of it now.
Oh, exciting.
Well, let's be honest here. You know, I know no Ferrari fan will want to hear this, and that makes it more enjoyable to say. If he goes to either Racing Point or Red Bull, he's moving up the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Going to Racing Point
At the
is
moment.
moving up the grid from Ferrari, and
Yeah.
I don't see, unless Renault's protest, which I don't think will come to anything because it's going to be so hard to prove anything. You know, they will.
I mean, braking time, Renault do like complaining about brake ducts.
Oh, I did see if anyone wants the notebook as well, just in case any of our listeners didn't watch the notebook. They're not complaining, so they're not putting a protest in every weekend just to be pricks or like.
They just did it
constant.
once.
No, they've got to.
It's
Yeah.
it's a box ticking exercise.
Yeah.
Because the parts from the Styrian Grand Prix have been impounded.
They have to
Racing Point
protest the
put
others.
new parts, new identical parts on the car. So Renault had to protest those because if what they used in Styria was found to be illegal, if there wasn't a protest against, even though they're identical parts being used in Hungary,
yeah.
then they would be classed as legal. It's the way that the FIA protest system works. It's bureaucratic hell.
But
It is,
actually,
yeah.
it means that because they're protesting, I believe they get the points on count back for each race.
For each race that they protest at.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if they get disqualified,
The points
then
count.
whenever they've protested, they will get the points on count back.
Yeah.
So
Also, just another point we go talking about Ferrari about moving up the grid. Carlos Sainz challenging and passing Charles Leclerc, quite clearly proving that he's never going to sit behind Charles Leclerc.
And it was pretty elbowsy, that move
Oh,
as
it
well.
was, yeah. It was not brutal. It was a hard pass.
I mean, we've got to say too. I'd comment. Charles had the hard tires on at the time, didn't he? His tires weren't like
No, yeah.
awful. It wasn't when he had. It was later in the race, wasn't it? Mediums or hards?
I thought it was just after the safety car, was it?
It was. I think it was sort of fairly late on. It was about the last quarter of the race.
Yeah. But what I meant is, it wasn't during the soft tire phase where Charles was left hanging out waiting for rain. When the rain didn't come,
No.
he had decent tires
it was
on.
after that.
Because the other thing to note,
It was when we were going to get rain in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Honest.
the only thing to note is that he was overtook by Carlos Sainz in an inferior car. I think that's worth
He
pointing
was,
out.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting dynamic in that team next year.
I do as well.
For 10th place.
That's it. Ferrari, they don't really bring the results, but they bring the gossip and the drama, don't they?
I mean, we used to say Honda was powered by dramas.
Well, it's 'cause
But
they said they
Mercedes powered by dramas.
Yeah.
Well,
it was Honda powered by dreams before Honda
Yeah,
came
yeah.
back into F1.
were- Yeah.
And it was, Mercedes are powered by dramas. No, that's Ferrari now.
Yeah. It's like it's basically
The flouncing horse.
So should we start at the back and work forward then?
I think that's probably the best way of doing it. And starting at the back this week is the team that are better on Saturdays than Sundays at the moment, Williams.
Yes.
Late lunch on Saturday for the entire Williams garage.
Both cars through to Q2.
They're going to need a pay rise, those mechanics. Actually having to do work in Q2.
Yeah, I mean, apparently now Williams are actually thinking to switch to sandwiches rather than a cooked lunch on Saturday because they don't know when it's going to be served.
Yeah, it used to be served at exactly the end of Q1.
Yeah. Now they've got that extra sort of 20 minutes work. It's like, we're staying up late.
And George Russell's nearly giving them a full hour on a Saturday.
yeah. I thought he was going to give them a full hour this
Did
weekend.
look like it, didn't it, for a
Yeah.
little bit? If you remember last year, he was incredibly quick in qualifying, wasn't he?
I mean, last year we were saying, he's only like half a tenth away from Q2.
Yeah.
Now we're saying he's like round about a tenth away from Q3.
Are we
Yeah.
worried for the
And
lad, though?
hassling the Ferraris
Yeah. But-
in qualifying.
Are we worried for the lad, though, doing another year at Williams?
No,
I don't
not
think
yet.
so. 'Cause that snuck out on Friday, didn't it? That Latifi and Russell are staying for another year.
It snuck out, but George Russell had already said it.
Yeah, he'd said he had a multi-year deal, didn't
Yeah.
he? So.
He'd already said before the season started, I'm at Williams for 2021.
But he did. Did you hear what he said like that day during the press conference? Because it was quite. I think it was quite telling of how he felt about it. because he said
And Claire wanted him to stay.
Yeah. Claire made it adamant that she wants me to stay, and it clearly showed that it wasn't his choice where he was or what.
I think,
was
of
going on.
course, he'd rather be in a Mercedes, but I mean,
Well, anyway,
I think if this was a full year, I think
Mm.
he might have a shot at getting in that Mercedes next year. But because of this is only going to be a very rushed season, and next year's cars are going to be the same anyway.
Mhm.
Just stick with the consistency. When the formula changes, then maybe who for me?
I mean, this says to me that I think Williams have actually got some decent developments on the horizon.
Why?
He seemed excited about the fact that he was
He
staying.
always
Do you think?
seems excited.
I didn't
Oh, I
think he
don't
sounded
know.
excited. I thought he sounded heartbroken.
Not heartbroken. He just
No,
it
but
was-
dejected.
clearly wasn't his decision. Somebody
Yeah.
else wanted him to stay, and so he's staying.
Well, the one thing I do think Williams are given, at least if they can work out how to give their drivers the quali pace in the race, is it at least the car seems balanced, and they are giving a car that like we used to see with like a decent Minardi or a decent Sauber now and again, where it was like mechanically a sound car, which was well balanced, and you give it to an exceptional driver and they'll go and stick it 3 seconds up the road from where it should be.
Yeah.
And it did in qualifying. We seemed to have that where George Russell was able to put that car somewhere where it wasn't supposed to be.
12th.
Well, clearly not supposed to be 12th because
And
I mean,
Latifi
Russell
did a good
finished-
job as well. So we shouldn't forget.
Of course,
Latifi getting
Latifi
to-
did a great job getting to Q2 as well. But I mean,
Sunday's not his friend though.
He started well.
Latifi,
then
Latifi
less so.
started well, and then
It went to crap.
did they get a penalty for that?
He
'Cause it was
got
an unsafe
he
release
got a
into
5
Sainz, wasn't
second
it?
time penalty.
Yeah, it was
And
an
a wrecked floor.
it was unsafe release into Carlos Sainz, which his brand new tyre was punctured by the time he got to turn 1, where he spun round.
I think he was still on the pit limiter when his tyre was punctured.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, but the somebody on our Discord was saying, "Oh, did he not check his mirrors?" Just like, well, probably, but I mean, you know,
you
It's what the team's
you
meant
go
to
when
do.
the team.
you see that green light and you put your foot down.
Yeah,
Yeah, but that's I'm not sure about this, but I'm pretty sure that you're not going to see anything out your mirrors.
No,
the
in that
pit
You're
lane
going to
Small-
see,
smaller
your
thing,
tyre
yeah.
guy's ass or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Like, not actually
yeah,
going to see
so-
any.
You're
well,
not
someone-
going to see someone who's right in your who
No.
would be in your blind spot in a normal road car.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see them in your mirrors whatsoever. But
Someone did point
so
out.
you can't blame Nick Latifi for that. That's Williams' mechanic's fault.
Yeah, no, it was one of the sort of regular F1 journalists. I can't remember who it was. It was it was like a paper journalist, not a TV journalist. They tweeted a picture of the head, like the on-screen graphics, of the halo effects that they've got now, and said like literally the answer to these ridiculous mirrors that drivers have to use is staring us in the face now, because he was talking about the rear view screen on the graphics.
That would probably work because
Get
it's
that into a car.
Yeah, I mean you've got that space in the three-way join in the Halo,
Yeah.
so you've got room for
Maybe,
for the screen there.
What's that
And-
going to do to aero though?
I don't even know.
It would be completely. You could actually completely encase it in the Halo itself. You wouldn't have any bits sticking out.
I don't
Yeah,
even think you'd do it
McLaren's-
in the Halo. I don't think he was mean about sticking it in the Halo. I think he just meant about
Have a
using
screen
an
somewhere,
LCD
yeah.
screen, because like what the first thing that jumped out to me would be you would either have it integrated into the on-screen display on the steering wheel, or Williams it. You know how Williams have their dashboard on the front of the car and not the wheel,
Yeah,
so you could have it in front of you.
yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I mean it works for endurance racing because all the 24-hour cars,
Yeah.
LMPs and GTs.
Williams' Speedtail doesn't have. McLaren's Speedtail doesn't have mirrors. It has cameras, and then the screens are inside the cars to help with aero drag.
I mean, it can't be long before a heads-up display in the helmet anyway.
No, it can't be really.
I'm surprised that Indy with those screens don't use heads-up displays yet.
I think that I want to say Indy trialled something a bit back, but it was just a little bit too distracting and needed a little bit more work.
Yeah,
They're still trying to figure out how to get cooling into those screens. So
to get quite warm in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, India have only just changed the regulations that you don't put the driver's water bottle next to the engine.
Right. Got you. Yeah.
Because, they thought it might be a good idea with less air circulating in the cockpit for the drivers to be able to drink cold water.
It's a good move.
I'm doing the 500 next week. I've got a flask.
Yes. Yeah.
But anyway, back to Williams. Yeah, Latifi ended up 5 laps down because of multiple pit stops, damaged floor, lost a lot of speed.
Don't know what happened to George. He got a bad start and then just kept falling backwards. Because he started well. We were saying he qualified well. He was I think 17th by the end of the first lap, and then it
started on soft tyres, and it was just the wrong call.
Right. Okay.
His first stop was for soft tyres.
And it was the wrong shape, much like Charles Leclerc. Was it Leclerc who stopped and then had to stop again because the tyres were crap?
All the runners who started on softs early on struggled. So he admitted as much after the race and just said it wasn't. It was just the wrong way to go. But they had to take a gamble because they weren't entirely sure what everybody else was going to be doing.
Fair enough.
Because they knew that people were going to be coming in the first couple of laps, but there wasn't time to actually think about the way to do it.
I mean, the signs look encouraging for Williams, but it's not encouraging that a circuit where straight line speed isn't
not
such an advantage.
At all.
Where they should really have had a bit more.
But the problem, of course, the other problem that everybody had was the amount of high tire degradation over the course of the weekend, because F2 and F3 really struggled with soft tyres just going to crap within half their expected lifespan.
Yeah.
Some of the F2 drivers were expecting to get 8 laps out of their soft tyres, which I think are the same as the current F1 soft compound, or as similar as you can get. And
but they're different diameters, though, aren't they?
Yeah, they're using the 18-inch ones. Yeah. But they were still only getting 4 or 5 laps before the tyres were dying completely. And there was a lot more marbles offline than you'd expect.
Bernie Eccleston will be pleased.
Oh yeah. And just for some reason this week, the track was, because it's not normally a tyre killer.
Well, I mean, I suppose the pressures as well on the lead up to this, because we're halfway through the season essentially, where you'd have all this data on the run up to this.
Yeah,
kind of playing guesswork a little bit with.
We're kind of 7-8 races down, aren't we?
Yeah. So. That's
although no, we're not, because we're on the 2019 tyres.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, of course.
We're using last year's tyres.
So, but it's still 2020 cars, isn't it? So it's the load that's going through the cars.
It's the data from this year's cars with last year's tyres. It's not going to, correspond to last year's cars with last year's tyres.
Yeah. So another bad one for Williams, but you can't really say it was down to the car this week. It was down to things.
Yeah, pure dumb luck. I mean, they had a lucky Saturday and an unlucky Sunday.
But they weren't quick.
No, like I said, a circuit where speed is kind of removed from the equation as a thing. Williams weren't really they weren't there at all.
Yeah. Well, I had Damon Hill arrows in my head at one point.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
When it looked like George Russell might get into Q3, but those days appear to be gone. Hopefully the new rules might bring those surprise results back for us.
You never know, but you probably do. Right, Alfa Romeo next. God, they have sunk this season.
It was so anonymous. I don't really know what happened.
What were their
to them
finishing
during
positions?
the race.
15th and 17th.
Yeah.
And Giovinazzi has tweeted something about hard work paying off.
No, it's not paying off. Giovinazzi
no. He worked hard for that participation medal.
No, he doesn't even deserve one of them. Sorry, I like Antonio Giovinazzi, but he does not belong in Formula One. I am in Camp Lee with this one.
Yeah,
totally. Because
I'm beginning to think so.
But your teammate Raikkonen finished 15th, didn't he?
Yeah.
So Raikkonen is 41, 42, 41, and he's probably, we said this last week, probably going to retire at the end of the year. Giovinazzi needs to put him away, and he's not.
I mean, of course, the other issue was, I think, didn't Raikkonen qualify 20th?
Yeah, exactly. Raikkonen
Yeah.
he was for the very first time in his career, Raikkonen without penalties. Raikkonen qualified slowest.
And then he got a penalty for lining up in the wrong grid box.
No, it wasn't the wrong grid box. It was slightly out of line.
Ah, right.
Oh, was it?
He didn't.
it was still in the wrong place.
He didn't move into one of the Haas grid slots. He wasn't lined up properly in his grid box.
Right, okay.
But
But
still,
he got a
something-
penalty.
He's done it enough times. You would
Yeah.
think he'd know where to park.
Yeah, but he got a penalty and
Yeah.
he still finished 2
That-
places ahead
that
of his
was
He
my
teammate.
actually only
point.
finished one place ahead. Grosjean finished
Oh, I
15th,
see, of
but got the
course.
penalty.
Hmm.
So Grosjean was classified 16th.
So in
but
which
it
case
was-
that's even worse for Alfa Romeo then.
yes,
That
but
means-
15th is
Jo-
a bonus.
That means
yes.
Giovinazzi couldn't even finish within 10 seconds of the car in front.
No.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not a great season for.
No. Yay, we're ahead of Williams is not a celebration for Alfa
Yay,
Romeo.
we're ahead of Williams at some points of the weekend.
A Williams that we've just said had lots of issues and didn't really excel.
Especially, what did we decide Mick Schumacher had to do to be able to get into Formula 1
Has he got
next
to be
year?
top 3?
Top 6.
Top 6,
'Cause
which
he's-
he is at the minute.
I was
And
just
gonna
Schwartzman
say-
is first, which would be more than enough for him as well.
He's-
So they might have 2.
Yeah, but Schumacher did it a good way. Did he get 2/3?
Yeah.
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
podiums this
Also,
weekend?
Robert Kubica did FP1 in Kimi Raikkonen's car.
Right. I wouldn't be surprised to see a return in Kubica, you know?
No, I wouldn't. Because he was
Kubica,
okay in
Kubica and
FP1.
who does better out of Schwartzman and Schumacher
A
next
little
season?
bit, yeah, because
Maybe.
I'm maybe for what everything we say about Ferrari, and we know Ferrari have got like the fingers in Alfa Romeo, but for everything we
pardon?
say about Ferrari, they
Well, they like the feel of a rusty spoon.
they are incredibly loyal with their drivers, you know, and they're like people that have had contracts with them or that have worked for them. They seem like an incredibly loyal company.
Any team that can hang on to Marc Genet for that long.
Exactly.
And
Like-
Luca Badura.
They literally gave Fisichella a job because he was Italian.
For life.
He was, forever.
Yeah,
They still own him.
he's got a job at Ferrari for life.
Yeah. They keep giving Eddie Irvine cars.
I think that was in his contract.
Yeah.
But yeah.
They keep giving Toro Rosso rejects like
Yeah,
sim
yeah.
time.
So I wouldn't be surprised, given the fact that Kubica like had that Ferrari contract all done and dusted. I wouldn't be surprised if they repaid that contract with a Salvo Alfa Romeo drive.
Yeah, quite possibly.
You mean the one that he's paying about 12 million euros a year for?
Yeah, but
Look,
even so, look, there's more than enough people in the world that are driving that have rich parents that are like a Latifi or like a Stroll that are quite willing to give Alfa Romeo 12 million for a drive.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's looking quite glum for them at the moment, but the other possibility, I suppose, could be that they've just sort of designed their car for this year and next and gone, you know what, leave that one. We're never going to win a race with it. Let's concentrate on 2022.
I think it's the engine, mate. I think all the
I think,
Ferrari
yeah.
cars
I
are
mean,
fucked
yeah.
because of
We've
Ferrari.
seen the numbers about how much the Ferrari engine's down on power compared to...
Yeah.
the cheating engine.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to say the engine that we're not allowed to talk about because it spoils the non-disclosure agreement. So there was a blank in the back of that car.
Yeah.
But yeah, I predict a long 18 months for Alfa Romeo.
I mean, but like as Sean said last week, you know, there's the engine freeze going into 2020 as well. You know, so like, how fucked are Ferrari and for how long?
Yeah.
Yeah, anything with a Ferrari in the back of it is screwed. This is why I'm saying it's a long 18 months for Alfa Romeo.
Sorry,
till
hang on.
the end of next season.
Just let me preface. I sounded concerned then. I really think it's hilarious.
Making you feel warm and fuzzy inside
Oh,
that
yeah.
Ferrari is doing a bad job.
Right, AlphaTauri next. Yeah, Gasly's car vaping in the pits.
What happened there? Because that kind of looked to me like Button's retirement in Monaco, where somebody forgot to remove the coolant tape. Or
No, the
coolant block.
gearbox blew.
Oh, was that what it was?
He was already on his second.
I was going to say, because he had a new power unit fitted for
He
this
was on
race,
his
and
second
then-
complete power unit of the weekend because that's why he didn't go out in Q3 on Saturday.
Yeah.
It did sound rough as
Because
well. didn't it? Jesus
it
wept.
sounded like there was something loose in it.
Shit's been unreliable, isn't it? You know, can you imagine if we'd have done a full season? Do you know what I mean? Shit.
But yeah, they fitted the new power unit for Sunday, and then the gearbox just went.
Yeah, terrible.
My
And-
favourite thing about that when he came in was there was smoke billowing out of it, and some mechanic just goes and has a look right up the exhaust. It's like, what are you doing?
You expect the sort of comedy pull away, and he's got the black ring round his eye.
That's clearly not good for you. Don't breathe that.
What you didn't hear on that camera was him go,
Yeah.
it's going to cost you that, mate.
Yeah, well, everybody heard what Ted Kravitz was saying from the grandstand when Gasly pulled in. It was just like, I can smell burning oil, plastic.
Mm-hmm.
and
Imagine
other-
what that guy could smell then, looking right into it.
Yeah, probably impervious to those sorts of things. He's the kind of guy who stands out the back of your workplace, with a tire fire, just watching it.
What Ted Kravitz didn't realise was...
Everybody's seen someone like that, haven't they?
Yeah.
Like, just watching a fire. Like, what are you doing? That's that guy.
What Ted Kravitz didn't realise was it wasn't the car that was making the smell. Red Bull had the young driver furnace going out the back.
It's getting a bit chilly. Stick another couple of Formula Euro Cups on there. Gasly was the first of the drivers to ask to pit for slicks on the formation lap, and we wondered why the team were ignoring him. And as it turns out, it was illegal for them to answer.
Yes. Well, illegal for them to give the driver instructions. If they hadn't said anything and he decided to pull in by himself, I think that would be legal.
But because the team didn't say pull in, then it was all fine, which led to the Haas issues that we'll get to shortly.
Yeah.
That-
Danny Kvyat, though.
I think it's ridiculous that in those
It is a bit,
situations...
isn't it? Because think about like what we saw with Lando Norris in the last few laps. Scenario 7, push overtake and hold it for 5 seconds.
Yeah, but
If that's not driver coaching, but telling someone to come into the pits is
having a because that for me it's a safety issue. If you've got a drying track and you can go on onto slicks and you're on wet, or you're on wet and you can the other way around.
The other way around, yeah.
You should be able to turn around and say, I think we can go onto slicks. What do you think, Dave? And Dave should be able to go, whatever you think, Peter.
And that's the thing as well. You can't just randomly pull up into the pits, are you? You've got to the team. You've got to know the team are ready and have got those tyres. You can't just be pulling up like,
but
hi.
I think this is a throwback to everyone's favourite US Grand Prix ever, because of all the team instructions that were going on the formation lap. And apparently McLaren were having an argument with Kimi all the way around because he said that he still wanted to race and they were worried that he wouldn't come in.
Well, no, it was part of the new rules, wasn't it? That the starts have to be completely manual by the driver. That's what it is. So you can't tell the driver what to do and how many revs to hold and stuff like that. That's why it's there.
But yeah, you would think, can I come in for new tyres, please? Yeah, all right, we'll get ready.
Yeah, you think,
should
yeah,
be
it's
a
all right,
perfectly
mate.
acceptable exchange.
Exactly, yeah. But no.
But no, apparently.
Because it's even it was even
talking.
banning the burnouts, wasn't it? Like they used to tell them how many burnouts to do and for how many seconds and stuff like that. It was to stop all that bollocks.
But also,
I mean, don't ban the burnouts because the Red Bull AlphaTauri tyre fire guy wants to smell them.
Exactly. Danny Kvyat though, thumbs up.
Good drive.
Solid.
Yeah, did all right. Did okay, quite anonymous, but just got on with it.
I mean, to be honest, an anonymous race for Kvyat where he finishes in or near the points that's Kvyat 2.0.
What's happened to Toro Rosso? I know AlphaTauri, but I'm talking about past as well.
As in, like their pace, or
yeah,
they're roughly where they always have been, aren't they?
Do you think no?
Towards
Because
the back.
no, but they were consistent mid-grid point scorers at one point.
Just at the moment, they're towards the back of the mid-grid.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget they were consistent mid-grid point scorers when
Before Honda. This is the point I'm trying to make.
Oh right, I thought you were going to say sort of over the last few years because Force India were never good at the first part of the season and McLaren have been shite and
Yeah, no,
so
but
that's four places they're losing.
Just whatever's gone up, whatever's between the Honda relationship and the Red Bull.
Yeah, I just
group.
I think this other team stepping forward.
Yeah,
The only team that's gone backwards is Ferrari, and they haven't gone back enough to go back to AlphaTauri.
Yeah.
Whereas Renault, McLaren, and Racing Point have all made a step forward, and I just don't think, I think they haven't, or they haven't made a bigger step forward.
Yeah, because I mean they were really the four teams that Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri were kind of in that scrap with. All right, they were towards the middle or the bottom of that scrap. But now the other three participants have moved on, and Red Bull 2 haven't stepped up yet.
It's two Red Bull reject drivers as well. You've got to assume Red Bull probably aren't giving them complete free rein with the checkbook at the minute because those aren't the two drivers they care about.
But the problem is they haven't got really anyone to replace them at the moment.
Exactly, so they're just holding until Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson are ready, and then they'll go all in on that.
Is that the Japanese driver that they're trying to get ready? Yuki
Yeah.
Tsunoda?
Yeah,
he is Honda-owned
I was going
in
to say he's
Red Bull
I was
program.
going to say he's Honda, isn't he?
Yeah.
As well as Red Bull, and of course Liam
F2
Lawson.
or F3?
He's in F2. Liam Lawson in F3 also looks fairly handy, but
Best
also
fire of the
did
weekend.
catch fire, which was not helpful.
I saw that, yeah.
All
Is
the
that-
way from turn 1 to turn 4, doing a Ramstein tribute
Yeah,
show.
so
So that was
he's-
impressive.
So he's Red Bull Junior.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's Jane Deruvala in F2 as well, who really has looked very average in F2, and Jack Doohan in F3 as well, who hasn't really done much yet, but he's I
He's a
think
doing.
fresher. He is that. He is a Mick Doohan child.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he will fight anyone that gets in his way.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
He's got
Jack,
that pedigree though. I think that's the thing. He'll be
Mhm.
his name might carry him further
Yeah.
than not having the name.
He's first year F3 as well, but he in lower formula has chosen to use the number 33. So if he gets to Red Bull, Mick Doohan might have to fight Jos Verstappen.
Pay-per-view, get it streamed.
Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yes, that'd be a good fight though. I reckon.
MTV need to bring that back, man.
Celebrity
Celebrity
Deathmatch,
Deathmatch.
yeah,
Yeah,
please.
absolutely.
They keep threatening it every 6 months or so.
Yeah, not CGI, proper plasticine.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the only way to do it. Right, Haas
Or
next.
real celebrities.
Oh, yeah, real celebrities. They just do it.
Haas.
Haas, the illegal Haas.
Looked like rock stars at the early
Yeah.
stages.
Oh God, yeah.
Third and fourth they were running.
They were. It was a great move.
Mm.
You know, it was a great move they did.
Made that call made by a strategist who had to go home injured because he fell off his bike
Mhm.
at Styria, as it was, broke his arm and was working remotely.
Yeah, it was a good
Which
call.
is, yeah.
Yeah, a great strategy call over Skype.
But however, I think it's
Grosjean
harsh.
just lost all the pace.
I
Yeah.
think it's harsh to say that they look like wankers because I don't think it's their fault they
No.
were given a 10-second
No.
penalty.
No,
But Grosjean wasn't in the points. You know,
No,
it's-
Grosjean
and
was
Magnussen managed to keep it in the
Mhm.
points.
Grosjean was behind Magnussen anyway, wasn't he? I think it was Magnussen
It was
Grosjean.
Magnussen was third, Grosjean was fourth.
Yeah,
because when the double stacked in the pits, because Magnussen was ahead on the grid, wasn't he?
Yes,
and
I
then
think
they just as you say, they just dropped away. They dropped away so fast.
Mm.
Well, Grosjean did. Magnussen dropped slightly slower.
Magnussen dropped and then came back when people realised they made bad tyre choices because he was
Mhm.
on the cusp of going out of the points, and then people made second or third stops. I think Magnussen was. Did he make one stop, or did he do two?
I think he made one. I think he made that early one and then another one.
And then another one later on. Yeah.
And it could have gone really badly wrong because Magnussen was the only driver at the start of the formation lap on the full wets.
He was, yeah,
Yeah.
quite right. Yeah.
Everybody else was on inters, and he went out on the full wets. And if they hadn't have come in,
It was the fake, wasn't it? It was the Mercedes fake, but done by Haas, the reverse.
Mm.
Like they're starting on wets.
Yeah.
Pull him into the pits, boys.
Do you know what though? Even though they got the 10-second penalty, it probably still cost them less time than if they hadn't done it.
Probably, actually,
yeah, definitely in Magnussen's case, because he would have been about 10 to 15 seconds off the back.
Yeah,
in,
he would-
in those conditions on those
yeah.
tyres. If
He
he'd
would
actually,
be looking for wet bits
Yeah.
of track.
Yeah.
if he'd actually managed to get round to the pits
Well-
after lap one with the car intact.
If you put him in the position, if you don't give him the penalty and you don't go in that position, he wouldn't have scored points anyway.
Mhm.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
at least he still caught. Was he 10th in the end?
Yeah,
Yeah.
finished
Yeah, so
9th, demoted to
Got
10th.
got a point.
Yeah, gamed the system perfectly.
Mhm.
But I think we can say for that call, Haas this week, rock stars.
I think so.
Haas strategy department.
Strategy rockstar.
There's a better rock star later on the grid, or up the grid, I think.
Yeah, we'll do that at the end, the
Yeah.
rockstar, but contenders definitely. There.
Definitely contenders.
Yeah.
Oh,
best,
yeah. So-
best Haas
yeah.
race for what, 2 seasons?
So, I mean, it's the first points finish since Russia last year.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. And they didn't have too many points finishes before Russia last year.
No.
No.
You know, it's we knock them, we take the piss, but it's good to see them in the points.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I don't want them to fail, but
Even when they pop up there in 3rd and 4th, at least it felt like they made an impact on the race. You know, it
Mhm.
wasn't
Yeah.
like they inherited a couple of places because people fell out or something like that. At least they made a mark on a race. for
They
once.
did more for each Haas driver did more for that race than Joe Benazzi.
And clouds.
Well, they kept threatening.
They were stuck behind Leclerc, didn't they?
That's just his
Along with everyone else.
That's just the general liquid that spills from his cockpit.
No, it's just
Salty-
don't storm
salty
clouds
Leclerc
follow
too.
Charles Leclerc everywhere.
I'm sure that's a lyric. What have we got next? McLaren.
Further down than we'd expect to see them. But
Yeah, I was thinking we'd get something more. Sainz finished crossed the line in 10th, got promoted to 9th, obviously with the K-Mag penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Lando, nightmare start, just didn't really recover.
yeah, said it was his fault,
Mhm.
and then helped take the car apart at the end of the race and say sorry to the mechanics. So.
We'll find out more about that later.
Yes.
I think
Or sooner.
we could see with McLaren they seem
Or
to have
now.
an okay car or a good car, good mid-grid point-scoring car, but because the grid's so tight, make a mistake and you haven't got the car to push forward because everyone's so well matched.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, and also we were used, weren't we, to McLaren Honda days, seeing that McLaren would do well at Hungary because it wasn't a power dependent circuit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's kind of good that they're kind of on a level playing with everybody else, because it means that going to circuits where their power is going to be important, they're probably going to have it because they had the same fallback as the other teams as well.
Yeah.
So rather than jumping forward as we expected Williams to do.
Mm.
They had a bit of bad luck in the pits as well, McLaren. Sainz had that little clash
they
with
couldn't-
Latifi,
yeah.
which
And they couldn't
wouldn't have done
release
him any
Norris.
favours. Norris had to be
Yeah.
held for a while.
Yeah, I think also on Sainz stop, there was a little bit of a delay with one of the rear wheels. I think the left rear, I think lost about a second and a half on that, which kind of ended up with the Latifi problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think all in all lost about 2 seconds on that stop and track position. So it's one of those circuits where it's not an overtakey circuit as well.
No, it's hard to overtake, which is why drivers who did overtake deserve the plaudits. But yeah, McLaren struggled to find decent race pace.
We're talking about not being an overtakey circuit, but then Sainz making that move on Leclerc.
Yeah, it was great, a fantastic move. Yeah, as we were talking before we looked at the race, it was brave, and he had to make it stick, and he did. And was it Norris who defended from Leclerc as well?
I think it might have been at one
Might
point.
have been.
Yeah, Norris who defended and just refused to let him past. And that was fantastic defending as well from Lando Norris. But yeah, it was. I think Norris was on worn tyres, Leclerc was on fresh tyres, and but yeah, fantastic defending just to keep him behind. But
I mean, just for that extra couple of laps.
yeah, even still, showing guts even when your chips are down.
And of course, with Leclerc being stuck behind Lando, that kind of helped to his usual Ferrari position for this season of 11th. There's always a Ferrari in 11th. This is the new, Hulkenberg's in 5th.
Yeah, Ferrari in 11th.
Yeah.
The Hulkenberg will still pop up in 5th at some point this year.
Yeah, faster than a Ferrari.
Yeah, probably. But no, definitely. But the unfortunate for McLaren, but hopefully they're not a great race, but they'll push forward.
But then we do move on to the 11th best team on the grid.
The 11th best team.
I mean, qualifying looked okayish for them, but I mean, it shouldn't be okayish. It's Ferrari; they should be challenging.
I mean,
they both got into Q3.
At a circuit where power is not
Yeah,
the thing, it's not such a
yeah, but it's also a dog of a car that needed upgrading after the first race of the
it's
season.
still
hands up if you think they're not going to get through both cars out in Q1 at Silverstone.
Oh, maybe.
Jeez.
I
Out in
don't-
Q1 is bold.
Is it the fourth best car though? Let's be honest here without sort of
Fourth
forecasting
best.
Too much
I think I did a list, didn't I? I think I had Ferrari and Renault roughly at the
yeah,
same.
I think they might be 5th.
I think you've got Mercedes out
Yeah.
front quite clearly at the moment. Red Bull.
Yeah.
Red Bull Racing Point.
I think Red Bull at the
Track
moment.
dependent, probably.
Yeah, Racing Point,
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that Racing Point might be a quicker car than
McLaren. McLaren are car-wise ahead
you
of
think?
Ferrari. Yeah, and then Renault or Ferrari.
I'm not sure. I still think. I think because you saw
Best case scenario, they've got the fourth best car.
But you saw
There
it.
you go.
You saw it with Ricciardo racing the way he raced this weekend. I think the Renault is on par with McLaren. I don't think there's much between them.
No, I don't think there's much between Renault and McLaren, but I think Ferrari are probably around that, probably a little bit behind at the moment.
Oh, Monza's going to be.
But look at Vettel. Yeah, because there was 2 cars there.
Yeah, Vettel did well.
Yeah,
But he finished 6th.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's where that car should be. You know, I think it was more a case of Vettel just having
I think
putting
we'll
the car where
see.
it should be, and Leclerc not having a very good race.
I think we'll see at these power dependent circuits that are coming up. We got 2 Silverstones. Spain's not so much power dependent, really. And then have we got another break before we go Belgium?
Longest straight on the calendar, though, isn't it? Or it used to be longest straight.
It used to be, yeah, years ago. It's not anymore.
Mm.
And then we've got Belgium and Monza after that.
Yeah.
So quite a lot of power dependent circuits coming up in the next 5 races.
Ferrari going to struggle at Monza.
Yeah. The only thing I think will keep them from going out in Q1 is the fact that there are other Ferrari powered cars on the grid that are slower than them.
I don't know. I still think fundamentally they have the 4th best car.
Even still, that's not good enough.
No, they've got the best car with the Ferrari engine.
Yeah.
That's a best case scenario.
Yeah.
Fourth best.
Oh,
The
yeah,
problem is,
absolutely.
even if they have got the 4th best car, they've still got Ferrari strategy.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Which is-
it's not a good time.
And
It's
Seb,
not a good time
who's
at
not
all.
driving for Ferrari.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, Bonotto said that yes, they are open to management and personnel shake-ups this year.
Bye, Mattia.
Which I think he might. I think he might not see 2022.
But shock, like, when haven't Ferrari been open to personnel shake-ups?
Usually,
What year has there not been a Ferrari personnel shake-up?
oh no,
Personnel shake-up.
come on.
Pietro Ferrari grabs you.
What, when
the hell are
Mansell
you
joined?
doing?
when the contract is still. When the ink on the contract is still slightly damp on the new team principals deal.
It's a stable team.
Yeah. second that contract dries. Oh shit, nobody's safe. Yeah, Ferrari are just gonna. I can see Ferrari doing the usual thing of right, it's not working. Get rid of everybody, start again. Oh, it didn't work straight away.
Yeah.
It's not ideal.
It's not ideal, but it's what Ferrari do, and it worked for them right up to 2007, 2008.
I think the problem is they keep trying to, it's to use a fucking overused adage. It's the lightning in a bottle thing, isn't it? And they had it at one point with the Schumacher, Byrne, Ross Brawn, Todd,
Yeah,
the group,
the dream team,
the band. They're not getting the band back together. It's you can't look your way or buy your way even into having that click again with people, and it always seems to be that they're constantly trying to make Ferrari from the mid to early 2000s,
Trying to rebuild the old glory years.
Yeah, and it's not forward thinking, and that's the problem. Look at McLaren.
and I'm sat here in a Kiss t-shirt with 2 non-original members wearing original member makeup.
Oh yeah,
The final live shows ever, is that?
Yeah, that tour's still actually going on. This is from a year ago this week.
But McLaren are the perfect example of this. If it would be like McLaren after the fucking shambles of getting Honda involved, if they kept on trying to be the Ron Dennis McLaren,
Yeah.
but they haven't, and they've hired new people in. The
They've
whole
moved
team,
forward.
the team has a completely different dynamic to what McLaren used to be.
Yeah.
And it's worked for them, and I think it's something Ferrari need to do. That's why I think the best Ferrari have been for a while was when Dominicali was in, because the team felt different. The team felt fresh when Dominicali was in, and they got rid of him and tried to go back with this solemn, fucking wooden Ferrari boss.
Arriva Bene.
Yeah.
I quite
There was
liked
one
Arriva
in
Bene.
between Arriva Bene
I
and
mean, the Arriva
Domenicali.
Benny Hill show was hilarious.
There was one in between them, and I can't remember what his name was, but he was a proper,
Yeah.
just manager.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember who
No.
Benny replaced. It was some complete non-entity.
He was
Yeah.
not
corporate-
exciting.
corporate guy.
Yeah.
I'll have a quick Google while you talk
But-
amongst yourselves.
But it didn't work. It didn't work
No.
for them, and something needs to be done. I don't know what needs to be done for them.
So, quote today from De Montezemolo. Apparently, he was offered the presidency of Formula One, and Ferrari vetoed it.
Really?
Yeah, Bernie had offered him the job,
Wow.
and Ferrari kiboshed it.
Okay, fair enough. That sounds a bit strange for one of their own, but Jean Todt is at the moment anyway, isn't he?
No, this was president of Formula One.
Formula One, sorry.
Yeah, not the
Not the
FIA.
FIA.
The Max Mosley position.
Marco Mattiacci
Oh,
apparently
that
was
was
the one in
God,
between
yes.
Domenicali and Arriva
Yeah,
Bene.
the very Italian-looking man.
Yeah, well remembered.
Well Googled.
Well, Google.
Wikipedia, well done for remembering.
Well remembered that he was even
that something
there.
existed, yeah.
Yeah, the other three of us had completely blanked his existence.
Yeah.
Marco Mattiacci, I do remember. Yeah, he was wooden. Yeah,
Yeah,
I liked Arriva Bene.
Yeah, we used to call him Marco Materazzi because that was the closest we could remember.
Yeah.
You know, he was only famous for being headbutted by Zinedine Zidane.
After calling Zidane's mother a goat.
Goat is a compliment.
I mean,
these
she was
days.
good, but she wasn't that good. But I reckon we're in for another 6-month period of comedy Ferrari management.
Yeah.
The Arriva Bene show.
The Arriva Benny Hill show.
Yeah.
You know, I mean...
Do they buy someone? Do they like...
Charlie Jefferson, wasn't it, who put that together for us?
Yeah.
Who's available to buy, though?
I don't think it is. I think they will pluck some executive out of the sports car
Is
division.
Arriva Bene at Juventus?
He is on the board of Juventus, yes.
Very strange.
Yeah. Or they'll get another cigarette salesman like Arriva Benny was. Sorry, vape salesman now. You know, because they're missing wins now. And
Mission not now. I think I called it, didn't I, on the Discord?
which of course wasn't allowed on the overalls this week because
No.
you're even not allowed to advertise not tobacco in Hungary.
Yeah.
Same
Same in Silverstone, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, they'll get somebody from a different division of the group, or they'll
Right.
bring somebody in from.
Got him. The current CEO of Philip Morris, Andrei Kalantzopoulos, did work as a design engineer in the automotive industry before becoming Mr. Cigarette.
Right.
Could be him.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that could be the next Ferrari team principal, and you heard it here first.
He is Greek, though, which is not the Ferrari way.
Sergio Marchionne was Canadian.
I thought he was from New Jersey.
I'm pretty
He
sure
had the
Sergio
right
Marchionne
style
was
name,
Canadian.
though, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right, I'm going to Google Sergio Marchionne.
yeah.
one second.
TLDR, Ferrari fucked again. Right, where are we next? Racing Point. Impressive in qualifying. Lance Stroll
Yeah.
qualifying in third.
I've got to say, if you give Lance Stroll a good car, he does a good job.
Yeah. If he can keep this up, what he's doing right now, he will deserve the seat over Sergio Perez.
Yeah, if he keeps it up.
And the only if people complain, let's
We've
say,
been harsh on Lance Stroll,
absolutely.
Oh God, yeah.
yeah,
but he's never had a good
Yeah.
a good car.
But if he can do this and keep doing it, then even if he only matches or is slightly behind Sergio Perez for the rest of the season, I would still keep him because he's younger.
I'm waiting. I mean, I've got a better opinion of Stroll than I have had.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
The real clincher for Stroll is going to be Belgium, because we know Stroll is good on the circuits where it's gas brake turn, gas brake turn, gas brake
No,
turn.
but to be fair,
That's-
Hungary
that's-
is a technical circuit.
That's where, but it's not a fast technical circuit. This is
fair.
why Spa will be the clincher for me, because it's a fast technical circuit.
Yeah, it takes some bollocks.
Yeah.
Spa.
And if he can put in a good performance in Spa, I take it back.
Yeah.
I take back what I've said. Yeah, he has got it. Because we'll see him in a fast car on a fast circuit driving fast.
Yeah.
And if he can do all those three, yeah, he deserves to be an F1.
Yeah. I think it's fair.
His stock is definitely on the rise at the moment.
Absolutely, he had a great drive. He's just got to keep it now. He's got to keep the momentum he has.
Yeah, because Hungary's not a circuit where we would.
To be fair, we're not talking about him at the minute, are we?
But Hungary's not a circuit where you would think Stroll would be particularly strong, because it's not point and squirt, which is a circuit he's usually good at. It's quite technical, Hungary, isn't it? Let's be honest, from turn 1 all the way through to the turn 13, where it was the last turn.
The twisty turny bits.
It's all turn. It's all technical. Yeah, there's a few very few straight bits, but it's positioning the car ready for the next turn.
Yeah, isn't the second DRS zone one of the shortest on the calendar?
Something like that. But it's he did really well, and I'm quite impressed with.
He was my driver of the day.
Lance Stroll.
Yeah.
I think he was I don't think it's an unworthy, acclaim to give to him.
I mean,
to be fair.
I think realistically, you probably have to give it to Lewis just because of, he did the business, didn't he? Like he did a Lewis Hamilton race.
He
got pole,
millions of miles into the future and just left
everyone.
there.
Yeah. Just like, but Bottas seems broken again. But if you take him out, like I think Lance Stroll was fucking ace.
By the way, Sergio Marchioni, born in Italy but had dual Italian Canadian citizenship.
I always thought it was a Jersey boy.
Toronto, apparently.
That's near enough.
Just north of the border, along a bit.
Up a little bit.
Yeah, it's not too far.
Up a bit, left a bit, left a bit.
All the Canadians now going, that's not how geography works.
No.
They're down. We're not up. Perez, are we seeing him in his last season in a pink car?
I don't know.
Who knows?
I think technically he's got a contract, but
Lance Stroll's dad has a lot of money to make sure Sergio Perez
he
doesn't
can make
have
people
a
go away.
I
Rich.
believe that there is.
Make people go away.
What day is it?
Dear, talking of Canadian businessmen.
Something has to happen, but I think it's the 28th of July, but I could be wrong, and it could be the 23rd of July. It's one of the two.
It's probably going to be the 21st and we'll get bombarded by Tuesday news.
Probably.
Right.
Today
So
being the
it
20th.
either has already happened, is going to happen, or
maybe.
will have already be happening.
But there is a break clause in his contract.
For Perez or for Racing Point?
For Racing Point before the end of the month. But it has to be initiated before that date, which is either early 20s or late 20s.
Which would have been the summer break, I think.
Which would make
Probably
sense.
would have been, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's done an interview post race as well, Perez, where he's saying, well, Stroll's not going to sack his son. So I think he's kind of
Martin
resigned
Brundle
that
said
if
the same
someone's
thing,
coming in, it's going to be for him.
Yeah. Perez to Haas next season.
Quite likely.
That'd be great for Haas.
Probably replacing Grosjean. And I'm quoting Ted Kravitz here on the notebook because
also,
he was.
Also bring sponsor money as well, because Haas is still a blank canvas, isn't it, with just their name on the side.
No, they've still got the Jack and Jones, the clothing company on the back on the back of the rear wing. Which
I want to say that comes with Magnussen.
I think possibly does. Yeah,
I think he's the
But
model,
that sponsorship's on. It's Jack Jones on the car, isn't it?
Yay! But of course, the problem is sponsoring the rear wing on a Haas. You only see it when it gets lapped.
Yeah, you don't see it very often.
Backed into a barrier.
We'll talk about that later. We already have.
Yes.
Will have has.
Yes. After the Perez news. Future
has not happened.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll stop breaking time. Yeah. I mean, Perez. It was one of his get on with it drives.
I think
he fell backwards a bit, didn't he,
it
Perez?
was quite a poor drive. Yeah, it didn't work for him. He had a big off, or like not a big off, but I think he aquaplaned, and a Red Bull definitely got past him at some point.
My predictions before the race, I was still quite confident because I said Hamilton, Bottas, Perez. Before the race, I was thinking, all right, this is still looking pretty good.
You think it's going to be a tyre management kind of day, don't you?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
That's his thing.
Exactly, yeah. Tyre management, because everybody else's tyres are going to burn up and Perez will look after his, and he might not be quick enough for the Mercedes, so third is about as good as he's going to get.
Yeah.
I'm feeling all right with this one, and then it just wasn't at all because Perez fell away and Verstappen's car got fixed in time.
And you've just reminded me I haven't actually updated our prediction results from this race yet.
We'll
do that later.
Another jump cut. Nobody will notice if we don't talk about it now. But damn. Yeah, I think Stroll's doing a very good job. Perez, I don't think his head's elsewhere just yet, but
I don't think he had a rookie race.
I don't think the talk is going to be helping him.
I think being out qualified might have rattled him a little bit as well.
Yeah, because it was such a non-event last year.
Yeah, Stroll was out in Q1 almost every race last year, and then
all
of a sudden he's third behind.
Perez out-qualified Stroll 18.3 according to a stat that Sean put up at the weekend.
And now this season Stroll's third and Perez is fourth.
Shows how things can change.
Like I said, I don't know if I said it last week on the podcast, maybe he's like a Damon Hill type driver. Remember when Damon Hill was in a rubbish car in the Brabham? He was not really anywhere. Nobody really gave Damon Hill any anything. But then all of a sudden, Damon Hill took Mansell's seat at Williams because they couldn't sign Prost and Senna at the same time, and Damon Hill was pretty good in a Williams because he had the better car.
Yeah.
Not saying it's all down to the car, but some drivers adapt better. And I can't remember who we were talking to. I think it was Sean, who said that Damon Hill got better the more horsepower you gave him in lower formula. He wasn't that great, but when he started moving up the formula, he actually got better and better and better. And his best formula was Formula One.
And then when he drove the dog up a Jordan, he actually wanted to retire halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Right, binary team of the week, Red Bull.
No,
Have
not
we,
really.
Hang on, have we missed Renault at some point?
We have missed Renault. We did miss Renault, 8th and 14th. Yeah, we skipped from Haas to McLaren.
Oops.
What happened to Ocon? I don't know what happened to Ocon.
Passed by Norris on the last lap.
Last lap, Lando got Esteban Ocon on the last lap.
But why was he down there?
Don't know.
I don't think there was a particular reason. I think
just-
he was just
He was
one
just
of-
proving me
yeah.
right. Was that
Yeah.
what he was doing? Yeah,
I think
just
so.
proving
I
me
think he was
right.
just one of those that
Thought
didn't
so,
have it.
yeah.
on that
Ricardo
day.
looked quite. I don't mean this in a sexy way. He looked quite racy.
Ooh.
He was, racing cars.
Racing
We-
Jensen's Instagram.
No.
No, we saw his elbows this weekend.
That's nearly as
God, that
much
sounds-
as the Carlos Sainz hot chocolate picture.
Yeah, we saw Danny Rick's elbows this weekend, which sounds Victorian.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we did see Danny Rick doing a bit of, like you say, a bit of shoving, a little bit of, just this is my space. I don't mean the social media platform.
Yeah, I mean, I think
2007.
we're seeing a lot less uptight Danny Rick this season because he knows he's got the exit from Renault and the car's
The
better than it
pressure's
was
on.
last year. There's less pressure on him
Yeah.
than there was in
I think
we
it's
see
just
it
a
last
better car.
season.
I think it's just a better car.
Yeah, but we
than
see it
last year.
sometimes with drivers as well, don't we? When they know when the pressure's off, when they know if they've got a seat for next year, or they know that they're leaving and they're going somewhere else, they just relax and they just get on with it. And Danny Rick's done exactly that, which I don't think he's been able to do for the last few seasons. And he is putting Ocon away at the moment.
But like I said, I don't think we're giving Renault enough credit for that car being a decent car.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah.
it is so much better than last year's heat of 10.
But Ricardo said in pre-season testing that on the last day the car felt really good, and he was quite happy going to Australia. They've done a good job.
But don't forget that in 2018,
That's
Renault
why
had
Alonso's going to win a championship in it.
No. In 2018, Renault had the fourth best car. They were the best of the rest.
Formula 1.5 champions.
Yeah, because it was Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull,
Yeah.
and the gap was then the big gap down to Renault. Renault were the fourth best team.
Yeah.
McLaren took that mantle in 2019, then Renault had a terrible car, and Renault sort of clambered their way back a bit, but they're not easily best of the rest like they were in 2018.
But they're more competitive than they were last year.
Which is a positive thing.
Yeah. But as we keep saying, we've got a competitive midfield. And hell, that's good because, we don't want fourth place to be predictable.
It is
No.
good, but for me it's compounding like the problem we have with Formula One where the whole thing needs bunched up.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. It's making the best out of the situation that we've got at the moment and we're going to have for the next year and a half.
Yeah, and you're right. It has turned like the rest of Formula One is like Formula 2.0, and then you've got 2.5 being Red Bull and Racing Point, and then Formula One is just the Mercedes now.
Formula 0.9. They're so much ahead of one, which is why Bottas 2.0 won't work.
Yeah, but again, maybe he's not as relaxed because he keeps getting 1 year deals and he doesn't know what he's going to be doing from 1 year to the next until August, September.
I do. Come second in the championship.
Yeah, give him a 2 year deal and see what he can do with the pressure off.
2 seconds.
Right, so Red Bull, binary.
No, not really.
Certainly on Saturday.
Saturday was a binary result for them. Yeah, it was just.
Because Verstappen wasn't great either in qualifying.
No.
By Verstappen standards.
Was it sixth for Verstappen?
I
Seventh?
think it was 7th.
Well, they reckon there's an aero, like a fundamental aero flaw on that car, don't they?
And come the race, I think seeing
Have Red Bull put upgrades on that already this
Yes,
season.
and they put upgrades on in Hungary. The rear wing was a whole new rear wing, and that's what's not working.
Craig Scarborough pointed out that it's got an extra plane on the rear wing. I think it is.
It's Haas's rear wing.
Is it the
If you
Haas
look at both
design?
of them, yeah, they've copied Haas.
With the steps in it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems a strange choice to copy, doesn't it?
Yeah, Haas have been quite. I think I don't know if Haas copied Red Bull or if Red Bull copied Haas, but if you look at their rear wings, there's like steps in it, and a lot of other teams have now gone with that as
Yeah.
well, like the steps in the
okay.
front part of the rear wing.
And it's that bit, like the side
The
of
si-
it is the Haas side
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But then Max binning it on the way to the grid.
I mean, it happens.
Cold
doesn't it?
brakes, stabbed it, but then an incredible job by the mechanics to actually put the front left of that car back together.
He did
'cause
seem
that
to be-
wheel was hanging off.
He did
Yeah.
seem to be pushing on in his outlap, though. When you saw the
He was
replays,
going a bit, wasn't he?
Yeah.
It seemed odd, when you look at the weather. It seemed
Just
odd.
get to the grid.
I think it was him trying to work out where the grip was to
Not there, Max,
no,
obviously.
but to try and have a better idea of what was going to go on, in the first lap, so he could
Yeah.
try and get Hamilton.
Yeah. But I mean, he benefited from those early pit stops, didn't he, when everybody jumped into the pits, and
Yeah.
Verstappen was one of the ones who managed to that's where he made the gains, and
he made a really good start as well. He
Yeah, he did, yeah.
gained places off the grid.
Yeah. Oh, so well in Max for doing a fantastic job and getting a podium as well. Albon, on the other hand, starting I think 13th,
12th. No,
12th,
Russell was
13th?
12th, wasn't it?
Yeah, well,
he
yeah,
must have been,
was
he must have been
13th.
13th.
and then climbing up to 5th.
Yeah.
I mean, we say that Hungary's a difficult circuit to overtake on, and we've already spoken about how Albon was, not particularly being treated well by Red Bull at the moment. That's a really good performance.
Yeah, I mean the whole qualifying thing, sending him out in traffic.
Yeah. It would have been a good performance if he wasn't a lap down. That's the issue.
Most of the drivers were a lap down.
Oh yeah, no, but in the car he was in,
Well, he wasn't a lap down by the end because Lewis made that pit stop for the fastest lap tyres.
No, but technically,
I think he was a lap down, wasn't he? Still,
I think
Albon.
so.
I thought he was because was he?
I think Albon was the last one to be lapped.
Did Max lap him?
No.
No.
That's one. That's a thing at least. But
I'm gonna get the.
I think Lewis Hamilton lapped him, and I don't think Hamilton lapped Stroll. I think he was just about to lap Stroll, and that's when he pitted.
I think Albon was actually a benefiter of the rain that wasn't, because he and Verstappen.
He held on.
Well, no, he and Verstappen were both kind of coming to that slightly
Yeah, and they
iffy tyre
pitted.
point, and they pitted Albon first and put him on the hards, but they left Max out because they were waiting for the rain.
Mm.
So they'd kind of sacrificed Albon if it rained, but because it didn't, he ended up on
Quite well.
a good tyre.
Yeah, he was on the hards, wasn't he? So,
Yeah.
Well, I think that's like what happened with Ferrari and Charles Leclerc and Vettel, wasn't it? Because the team seemed so confident it was going to rain,
Yeah.
and I think that's what they thought Charles Leclerc was on the optimal strategy. I think.
Mm-hmm.
He just get hemorrhaging places though,
Yeah.
wasn't he? Yeah,
Yeah.
constantly. So, yeah. So then we've got, Red Bull. I don't think wasn't the race we expected from them, because usually the Hungaroring's a strong circuit for them. It just wasn't this time.
They are
at
not
all.
capable of challenging Mercedes.
No,
this
I
year.
mean this is the one thing I'm really, I say not worried about, but I'm kind of looking forward to seeing, and I'm also a little bit anxious about at the same time. Is we're going to Silverstone, or rather Formula One's going to Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah.
Albon was the last driver not to be lapped.
Oh, was he? So he unlapped himself and Hamilton pitted.
Yes.
There we go. So we go to Silverstone, and that's going to be a circuit where, go on then, let it off the leash. How much faster than everyone else is that W11 going to be?
Terrifyingly.
And the Racing Point's clearly going to be the second best car because it's last year's Mercedes.
I've got hope for Red Bull in a way, because at least they're going back to Britain. They can sort out what issues are going on with their car error wise. They're probably doing it right now as we're recording. They'll be trying to work out what the fuck is going on with that car.
Of course, yeah, and round the clock working probably
Yeah.
at the factory in Milton Keynes.
So that's a good thing. Obviously, it's one of those circuits where all the teams bring upgrades, but that means Mercedes is going to bring upgrades as well. But they just, do we think as well, as much as Honda's improved, as it doesn't seem to have made that step enough to compete with Mercedes. I still feel that they're hampered by engine.
Yeah, it's still not as good, is it?
Yeah.
Do you reckon... I know there's not a real engine change as such, but do you reckon they've already switched to 2022? Like they're already thinking about how do they prep that power unit for the 2022 regs?
I think you'd
Maybe.
have to, yeah.
And they've
So I
just
was
stopped
thinking
developing it.
Yeah.
with so I think some of the teams who are especially towards the back now, and as I mentioned last week, I think Racing Point are probably doing the same because they know that car's all right for next year as well. Might not be the second best car for next year if everybody else keeps developing, but they don't need to worry about it. They're going to score
don't forget development is actually limited on the chassis because they're using the token system.
Yeah.
So you can only really get aero developments.
That's what I mean. So if everybody else is going to develop up to the point where they're catching Racing Point,
Racing
for
Point
next
can
year.
Racing Point can develop and
they don't need
move
to worry
forward.
about a 2021 or upgrading this current car. All they need to do is concentrate on building a 2022 car, which will be an Aston Martin, obviously, by that point.
Unless this Renault appeal is actually successful and the FIA goes, actually, fine, you can have that for this year, but from 2021, no. Then it's suddenly like get...
Well, they'll just say, to bring back our 2019 car, it'll be all right.
But totally dominant from Hamilton again.
Yeah, it was a good race.
It was a classic Hamilton, wasn't it? It was, foot down. What was it by the end of the first lap? He was 3.1 seconds ahead.
At that point,
I think it was close at 4. I think it was about 3.8.
Yeah,
he had by the end of lap
yeah,
1.
I
It was
think
just like,
He's
he's gone.
growing. It was just like it was like 7 seconds, 9 seconds.
Yeah,
and I was just like, he's already gone. Like
he went, and everyone else was sort of swapping positions
by the
behind
time
him.
Max got into second, I think it was like
too late.
Yeah, it was like 12 seconds. It was like that's quite a lot even for Max to make up.
Yeah. I think that was the break year as well. The break race for Bottas. Remember I said last week that
he gets a break. Yeah.
Bottas shouldn't get used to the lead of that championship. I don't think he's going to see it again. Not unless Lewis has a DNF in the next race.
Yeah. Well, yeah, DNF in one of the next few races, which you would expect.
We haven't seen an unreliable Mercedes since 2016.
No,
but I mean, you would expect, anything could happen, can't it? Silverstone could chuck it down for just the last lap.
Hamilton was worried about his engine, wasn't he? On the grid.
Yeah, said it sounded like it was going to stall.
But then he's 3 seconds a lap faster. So.
Yeah, but he complains that the tyres are going off and then bangs the fastest lap in.
I do believe that Lewis creates moments for himself so he can get out of the car and say this was terribly
He needs
hard.
a bit of adversity just to sort of psych him up a bit.
Or even just like a little tiny bit of arrogance just to give him something to say, look what a brilliant job I've done.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Or maybe it's just, if I say this, other people think they've got a chance and I'll just piss off into the sunset, leaning out the back, one finger up, going to see you later. So
maybe, but it's not. They're not actually racing anybody. It's really so. There's no gamesmanship. It's kind of like one kid running around a field shouting, "I'm Batman." It's there's no one else there to contest this.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Lee's usual Saturday night. But yeah, I mean, there's no one to challenge at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, Bottas had a bad start, didn't he? That jump start.
Yeah, started, stopped, started again.
He said he went into anti-stall.
There were some angry people.
He went into Uncle Bullshit.
there was some angry people on Twitter and
the internet in general.
Some confused people on Discord as to why it wasn't even investigated into as an incident, because I didn't see an investigation. But
he never actually triggered the sensors when he did that roll. He managed to stop it in time.
He moved within his pit box, so he didn't trigger the sensor that would go off if you moved. If you left your pit box, so he didn't leave his pit box. And also, he was not moving when the lights went out. If he was moving when the lights went out, he would have been that's an instant slam dunk penalty.
But I've seen people get penalties for rolling backwards.
But
like for getting
possibly,
the clutch and rolling backwards. I thought it was movement inside the pit box.
Remember, Vettel did it last year.
Well,
Vettel jumped inside his box, but he didn't trigger the sensor. All the Hamilton fans. Yeah, all the Hamilton fans were.
Any backwards movement is an automatic penalty.
Right. Okay.
Because all the Hamilton fans were screaming that Vettel should have got a penalty, And I think at the time I was like, well, it needs investigating at least.
Yeah.
And I think I'm not sure if it got investigated when Vettel happened to Vettel, but
I think they did investigate that. And
they didn't
decided
investigate
it was,
Bottas. You know, that's what says to me. You know,
No, it
possibly
didn't.
because they've got a better sort of precedent.
Yeah,
for
it
now,
didn't.
having
It
dealt
didn't
with
even
last
come up
year.
as noted.
But I mean, top and bottom of it is it was a jump start. So it should have had a penalty because it was a jump start.
he jumped, but he stopped, and then he took the pain when
Yeah, he didn't get any
had an
benefit
awful
from
start
it, did he?
afterwards.
Oh, no, he didn't get any benefit from it. But if we're just looking at rules as rules type thing.
No, rules say if you don't trigger the sensor, it's not a jump start.
Yeah, but that means the rules are weird.
So you're arguing, you're saying rules are not the rules.
I'm saying if you've got sensors there and a car obviously does a jump start, then and your sensors don't call it as a jump start, you've got these two brilliant sensors called your fucking eyes. Yeah, you could see he made a jump start.
He
I
wasn't
love the
moving
idea
when the
that
lights
there's-
went out.
What?
He wasn't moving when the lights went out.
He went before the lights.
and
Didn't
he
he?
stopped.
Yeah, but he stopped
But he
before
stopped.
the lights.
Right,
If you're
okay.
stationary at
That's
the
what
point
it
of
was.
the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he carried on moving, he would have been fucked. Like that's an instant penalty.
Yeah.
But he moved within his pit box and then stopped again before the lights went out.
It seems like a grey area that's odd.
That's
There's
the
lots
that's
of
the
those.
explanation.
Though,
and
that's
I
the
can,
whole technical regulations.
understand
I
It's
can
all
understand it.
grey
I
area.
think
I
think that's
can
what happened with
understand
Vettel last year as
But
well, because
I'm
Vettel
just-
had a jump start and or inverted commas jump
Yeah.
start, but it wasn't given because he was stopped as well before the.
But if you're looking at something which should have like a clear cut rule, that should be a clear cut.
It wasn't
rule.
Maldonado in Belgium a few years ago, was it?
No, he wasn't like 3 seconds ahead at turn 1 while there was still 3 lights showing.
That was a fucking PlayStation one there, where you zip up the middle when
If
everyone's
no one-
still stationary.
If no one's
I think after the virtual Grand Prix this year, it's called the Lando.
if no one's seen it, Google or YouTube Maldonado jumpstart Belgium, because from the perspective of the starters box, which is dearly departed Charlie Whiting was in the starters box. He started the race. Maldonado was so clearly jumpstarting that Whiting pointed at him. Like seriously, if we'll YouTube it, but after we've recorded the podcast, Charlie Whiting is so angry that he points at Maldonado before Maldonado's even crossed the start line. Like no. I think it was a 3.5 tenth jump start.
Jesus.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit more than what Linford Christie used to say was go on the B of bang.
Yeah.
Right, Rockstars and Wankers.
Ooh.
Rockstars, Red Bull mechanics.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely. 12 minutes to do an hour's worth
Yeah.
of work.
Yeah.
Lance Stroll.
Lance Stroll,
Mhm.
Rockstar.
Hash strategy. We'll throw them in the
I
mix.
think so. Yeah,
I-
yeah.
Yeah, it was a shame for
Hmm.
them.
But it was a shame. But
Yeah.
like we've already discussed, they wouldn't have got that position if they hadn't made that call.
Carlos Sainz's elbows.
Yeah, maybe.
And Wankers, FIA regulations.
Yes.
Yeah,
Lack of rain. The
Lack
weather
of
forecast
rain. Rain was
lulling
a
us into a
wanker.
false sense of hope.
Yeah.
yeah.
That,
And the
that
general,
was the longest 4 minutes ever
Yeah.
between those rain showers.
and the general feeling of like something about to happen and not
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Like that also
The
wanker.
unfulfilled promise.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Williams' pace was a wanker.
Williams pit crew releasing their driver into someone else. Not good. Fewer
Yeah.
options really there.
Oh, Rockstar back on the podium.
Oh, and also
Yes.
mechanics allowed around the podium.
Yeah.
That's Rockstar.
Yeah.
And did you see what, instead of having a stupid little robot deliver stuff when they needed hats and stuff, your man just passed them to them.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah, I miss
Innovation.
I miss the dressing Daleks.
Maybe they'll come back in some other format.
Only for revenge.
Actually, an F2 Rockstar as well. Callum Eilert for Sunday for getting the 25-second gap down to within a second over the last 5 laps of the race and damn near taking the win over Luca Giotto.
Oh wow. Okay.
That was incredible.
And was it Smollier as well in F3? Was it F3? Did 20 overtakes?
Jesus.
Yeah, he was done. He was finished. Like, oh, hang on.
Yeah. At a circuit where you're not supposed to overtake.
Yeah, so there was some fantastic F2 and F3 racing this season.
Yeah.
They are turning a cracking series.
Yeah.
And go Schwartzman.
Leading
His
F2.
tyre management in the Saturday one was ridiculous compared to everyone else who just couldn't work it at all.
I do feel that, I mean, he looks good,
Mm.
but I do feel that his year of F2 has more in common with Van Dorn's year in F2 and Jolyon Palmer's year in F2 than it does George Russell, Lando Norris.
The problem with those two is they both didn't go straight into F1.
Yeah.
If he wins the title, Schwartzman, this year, Ferrari have to give him the Alfa
yeah,
Romeo
yeah.
seat. They can't.
No, but
palm
I just
him off
meant
somewhere
talent.
else.
Sometimes we say you get like a really deep talent pool in F2.
F2.
Yeah.
And then you'll get a year like we had last year where it just gets
It's the leftovers.
burgled. Yeah. And I do feel that it's got less potential Formula One drivers in it this year that might make the potential Formula One drivers look super special when they might not be super special. Well, you'll see when they get there, but we saw, like I say, we saw it with Van Dorn where he ripped it apart, didn't he? And we thought we were going to see the second coming.
Yeah.
And then he got to Formula One, and he just had a name that sounded.
He
like
was
a
at
sweet.
Hungary, by the way.
What?
He was at Hungary, by the way.
He is still a reserve driver.
Yeah, he was there as a reserve driver for Mercedes.
Yeah.
And I think he's still got some kind of tie with McLaren as well, hasn't he?
Isn't he with?
He's also
he's with what's his face's daughter,
Ron
Gilda
Dennison's
Ferran.
his soul.
Oh, he's with
Gilda Ferran's daughter.
Gilda Ferran's daughter.
And so he is technically almost a McLaren-in-law.
Yes.
No, I'm sure he's also a McLaren reserve driver with Esteban Gutierrez as well. Did we not go through this a couple of weeks ago?
Yeah, I
think
think
we did.
I think we did. I mean, that may change from week to week, and then all of a sudden we'll see Sergei Sorokin in a Renault.
It's a
Yeah,
fucking,
quite likely.
It's a strange web. The reserve driver
Yeah.
lineup this year.
Yeah, there are some drivers. They're available if someone needs one.
Mercedes, Racing Point, and McLaren all have the same
Do
two.
you reckon that's it? They just have them all in a bag, and if one of your drivers is ill, you just draw a Nick De Vries or someone out
I
of the
think
bag.
it's seedier than that.
It'd be
I
well
think-
gutted if you drew out Nick De Vries, wouldn't you?
I think it'd be seedier than that. I think it'd be like a glass bowl and car keys.
No, I was thinking more like it's the Kinder Egg where you want the toy that you build, but it's another bloody Smurf.
We've already got this one. Do a swap.
Right, I'm gonna hide Discord and Twitter.
Ah, is it that
And
time?
I think it's time for a shunt.
Shunting time.
It is shunting time.
Right, this week's. As soon as I find his name. I don't know. Keep talking with yourselves. It's well up there.
I mean, you were saying that last week you were going to do this one. You mentioned his name earlier before we were recording, and he said you were going to do. Oh, right, am I done now? Filling, okay.
Good filling, well done.
This one is from Mr. Arafat, who is our friend. Friend of the podcast, or friend of my podcast.
They're all friends.
And he
At
also
Meme Reg on Call,
Yeah.
I believe.
and he shares his birthday with me. So I was going to do it last week when it was our birthday, but obviously we went too long. We couldn't do it.
And
So
Johnny
you're having it
Herbert
this week.
sort of crashed into us.
Johnny Herbert interview and somebody talking about Alonso for about the best part
Before
of
we
an
do
hour.
That
this,
was
should we
Lee's
do a
birthday
hang on.
present to himself.
Before we shunt, should we jump cut?
Oh Christ!
Oh
yeah.
hell! I think it might be an idea for a jump cut.
Jump cut, and then we'll come back and shunt.
And time for this week's jump cut. Actually, it's another jump cut with a guest. And this week we're joined by, from Robo Race and ex of Haas, Reese Smith. Thank you so much for joining us, Reese. Great to have you on. And would you like to tell us a bit about yourself? Let the listeners know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. My name's Reese Smith. I work at Robo Race. I previously worked at Haas as well. Also, I've done loads of other different formulas, but I won't get into those. At Robo Race, we're currently doing our fully autonomous, fully electric, modified LMP3 cars out in Las Vegas. Looking forward to it.
So, do you want to explain a little bit about what Robo Racism does for the listeners? I know we had a friend and colleague of yours, Matt Steele, on the other week who explained things from his side. So, just as a refresher, what's it about?
So Robo Race, basically, what we're trying to do is we're trying to push autonomous software and technical design within sensors of cars to try and race cars autonomously, basically. And that includes basically the new cars that we've just built. So we have one version of our car, which is called the DevPot 2.0, which is it can be either autonomous or driven by a human. And our other car is called Robocar, which is our fully autonomous car, which is the car that we're focusing on the most at the moment, and trying to get up to 4, 5, 6, maybe more, racing against each other at the same time autonomously.
Wow.
Is that the series that's going to run with Formula E eventually?
Potentially. We're not sure at the minute. We're going to try and do as many standalone events as we can at the minute, just because we are still testing and trying to get everything correct. But yeah, we plan to do a full series either at the beginning of this year, at the end of this year, and at the beginning of next year. Depends on COVID though.
Absolutely.
As does everything at the moment.
Yeah.
What circuits are you going to be looking to race on? Any names that will be familiar to motor racing fans, or is it going to be sort of specially prepared ones? That you're setting up for us?
Our base of operations is in Las Vegas Motor Speedway. We have access to the outside of the track circuit, so it's like a smaller circuit for like road course that we have personal use for, so we can hire it for as many days as we want. And we're going to plan to do our first event there if we can. But if that's not the case, then we may end up doing an event in the UK. Not sure at the moment, but we shall see. It's quite difficult for us to try and find circuits that are easily used for autonomous cars because of the sizes, for example, and having acceptable runoff areas and everything like that, really.
So what's the difference between choosing a circuit for an autonomous racing car as opposed to something that's driven by a human?
There's a few technical reasons, some of which are safety related, obviously. Others are distance, because our cars are fully electric, so we only have a specific distance that we can run. So if we go to circuits that have got really, really long straights, we'll burn through a lot of power quite quickly, and we won't be able to get many laps in. So we've got to try and pick nice technical courses as well that will give a challenge to the teams, so the software teams, to program the autonomous cars. So yeah, there's a lot of things to think about when it comes to picking the right circuit.
I know a 37 3/4 mile circuit not too far from here that would be a challenge.
Yes. I don't, yeah. Robo Race around the Isle of Man TT circuit might be something that is a little bit too far even for.
I don't think it's a first year thing, that is it?
No, even for the brightest of minds and cleverest of robots, I think that might prove too much.
Never know.
Yeah, you never know. Of course, yeah. So, so the cars, they much like the drivers, they'll learn the circuit first, will they? Do you feed information like maps into them, and then they try and find the fastest route around without crashing into each other? Is that a basic way of saying it?
The cars can talk to each other independently, so they know what they're doing a lot of the time and the distances they are apart from each other. But the main way we get them to go around the track autonomously is by giving them a base layer, which will basically be the boundaries of the track itself. So like the left-hand side of the track and the right-hand side of the track, we will sort of drive around that area of the track with a GPS backpack. So we will completely track the left-hand side of the track, or the outside of the track, and then the inside of the track. So then it just leaves a nicely drawn track that the car knows that it's got to stay within those boundaries.
Okay.
But whatever it's doing in between those boundaries, it's doing fully autonomously. So we don't tell it it needs to stick to this line specifically. It works that line up on the fly. So,
will the individual cars have sort of set personalities? You know, will teams be able to make things that are like more aggressive or more?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Obviously, I'm a mechanic and I also help test drive the cars. So I drive the cars a little bit, but I'm also driven by the cars quite a lot. So I get to see the different teams' software, like what they've done with the software. So like the different lines they have, the different acceleration, different braking pressures, everything. It's quite interesting going from one team software to another, me sitting in it to test it, and seeing the differences. So like you say, in sort of human driving, you'll have drivers that have their own styles, and that will come across in the team's software writing as well. So there'll be different styles of driving, different styles of overtaking, everything.
That's great. So how do you translate your job sort of from when you were a mechanic with Haas in Formula One over to what you do now in robo race? Is it completely different, or is it mainly just the same kind of thing? So a car is a car, 4 wheels, and a power unit or something that pushes it along, and that's how you manage to translate from one to the other.
It's an interesting one, really. I mean, I've got a lot of experience behind me, like 12 years in motorsport. Never done anything like what I'm doing at Robo Race, or what I've been doing at Robo Race for the last 2 years. For me, when I did change from Haas to this, it was kind of like a bit of a leap towards the future, I guess, where I was quite interested in learning what the future technologies might be like. And I think getting a first glance into that is really important, especially in my sort of career. So I'm really glad that I am doing it. But like you say, the mechanical side of it is quite similar, whereas suspension, gearboxes, etc. But when it comes to obviously not being an engine and it's a battery, you've got to go through all your like electrical training, high voltage training, everything like that. So it's quite interesting.
Yeah, I think you're the first guest that we've had who's sort of travelled around the world with a Formula One team as well, year in, year out. What are the travel stresses like? Because we've heard that these last 3 weekends in a row, some staff from some teams have suffered a little bit, and even the drivers have complained about not being used to spending so much time in the cars over 3 weekends. Is it tough? Is it the scheduling quite tough when you're traveling so much? And obviously that's less now with where you are now, but going back a couple of years.
Yeah, going back to Haas, I mean, well, in F1 in general, really, it's definitely got a lot harder, I would say, recently. And it's definitely maybe to the point of where maybe it's too much, I would say, with some teams. Some teams it's all right because they've got like different sets of staff they can sort of rotate in and out. But some teams like Haas, for example, and maybe some of the other smaller teams, they don't quite have as many staff. They can't rotate people around, sort of give people breaks. So you do find yourself getting burnt out a little bit. But, I mean, you're away from home a lot during a normal F1 season. So this season, yeah, I don't know how they're dealing with it personally, but especially if you can't go out your hotel room, you're literally just stuck in a hotel, goes to the track, backwards and forwards. Yeah, it's a tricky one.
So, what was? I know we've talked about this with Matt before, but what was your career leading up to F1? What brought you to Haas? So how did you get there from the start, really?
So basically, I was meant to do a college course at Brooklands in the UK. Do motorsport mechanics and engineering, I think it was. I can't remember what the course was called. It was like a 3-year course. And they suggested to me to get a couple of weeks work experience in a team of some description. And there was a team actually not far up from me, which was called David Price Racing. And they used to do GP2 when it was called GP2, which is Formula 2 now, obviously. And I did 2 weeks there, work experience. And at the end of the 2 weeks, they offered me an apprenticeship role. So I decided to take that instead. So I spent a lot of my time learning on a Formula 2 car, early Formula 2 car. So quite a lot of it was unreliable, I'll be honest, on those things. but it was really, really, really cool. I mean, there's not many people that can go straight into jobs like that and learn as much as I did. So I was very lucky. But yeah, I started off doing Formula 2, and then, for example, from there, I went to go and do British Formula 3 for a year. And I got to work with Felipe Nasser, for example, ex-F1 driver. Who else did I work with? I worked with Kev Magnussen when he was there.
Oh,
this
yeah.
was at Double R, I think it was at the time, where I went to Raikkonen and Robertson Racing. But yeah, I spent a year there, and then I got offered a position in another Formula 2 team, which was known as, well, what was it known as? I'm trying to think now. I think it was called Air Asia, and when Caterham, Lotus,
Oh, was it the,
when
uh,
Lotus
Tony
first came into
Fernandez's-
F1.
Tony Fernandez team.
Yes. Yeah, so it was called Air Asia, and then obviously it all changed once Lotus disappeared in F1. It changed to Caterham, and I spent, I think it was 2.5 years doing Formula 2 there, and then I transferred directly from the Caterham F2 team into the F1 team, which was good. So it was a nice progression there. And yeah, I learned an absolute heap going from F2 to F1. That's for sure. It was an absolute eye opener. It's quite terrifying actually, going from a sort of Formula 2 car, which is quite sort of basic, to a Formula 1 car. It's very nerve wracking. But where did I go from there? I went to do Formula Renault 3.5 litre at Carling. So I spent a year doing that, and I also did Formula E in parallel actually at the same time, which was actually a really bad idea because it was really hard work.
Because the calendars didn't quite line up.
No, they didn't line up at all. So like sometimes I was going from literally after the race of a Formula 3.5 litre, I was jumping on a plane instantly and going straight to the Formula E race.
Wow. Okay.
Which was like halfway across the world. But yeah, that really drained me, that one.
Who were
That's
you
for
working
sure.
with in Formula E?
Mahindra.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so Carling managed to get a contract with Mahindra. So Carling supplied staff to Mahindra.
Excellent.
So I jumped across and helped with that.
Well,
But that was really interesting. Another electric car.
Yeah, who were the drivers
Really good.
for Mahindra at that time? Was that Bruno Senna?
It was Bruno Senna and Karun Shanduk.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, they were interesting characters.
I remember walking past Mahindra's office in Milton Keynes
Yeah.
and being surprised that they were working out such a small building in the. Can you call it a city centre?
No, Milton Keynes is spread out ridiculously, isn't it? It's a very funny place. I find
It's
it
a
funny
weird
anyway.
town.
Yeah. it
World's
is.
biggest noughts and crosses board.
Yes, it is. It's like a UK version of America.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. So, did you go to Haas from there? From
Yeah, so
from Mahindra?
at the end of the Formula E and 3.5 litre season, I went to Haas. Yeah, I got a phone call actually from someone that I used to work with at Caterham. He was the chief mechanic at Caterham. He rang me and he said, "Oh, do you fancy coming to start Haas?" Like from the very start. So
Yeah.
I think I started 4 months before the first year. Before the first year we started or entered a car into the season.
Okay.
And that was an incredible experience, really. Starting an F1 team from scratch, it was very, very, very bizarre going into an F1 factory that was completely empty. Like, not even the flooring was done.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, we built it from the ground up, and it was a really cool thing to be a part of.
Seems to be quite the. At the time when Haas first started it appeared to be the way to go with new teams, because you mentioned there you were working with Caterham. Obviously they were one of the new teams that came in, obviously, as Lotus in 2010 and disappeared only a few years later, along with HRT and Marussia, Virgin Man, or whatever you want to call them. But Haas, when they came in, we were saying on this podcast at the time, there's absolutely no way Haas will be competitive in their first season. It's going to take them a couple of years to build up. But the model that Haas had in place at the time, obviously of buying parts in, seemed to be a really good points in the first race. I think, wasn't it, with Romain Grosjean?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah, it was an incredible first race.
that must have been some party.
Yeah, I mean, it was incredible. I mean, to sort of spend all my time, like I was spending weekends, I was working late, like everything to try and get us to the first race and get the car built. Obviously, we had to build the car out in Italy at Dallara.
Yep.
Which was another logistical nightmare, really. But we managed to do it somehow. But it was it was just really satisfying getting a result like that. Like it sort of picked everyone up like instantly. All the work that you'd done was worth it. The hours you put in.
When you got that phone call saying come and work for this new team that's never done F1 before, was that an instant yes, or was there sort of an alarm bell?
I did have my doubts. Yeah, I was a little bit dubious. I was kind of like, do I want to go and do this? Like, what's this gonna? This is gonna be like. I really like hard work. I'm not one to stray away from hard work. I'm a hard worker, but I thought, well, maybe this is too much. Like, maybe this is sort of bitten a bit too much off here if I do this. Because for me, it was a big role that I was sort of taking part as well. Because I was going to be Romain Grosjean's gearbox mechanic, so I was basically responsible for a whole half of the car.
Yeah.
And when I worked in F1 before that, I was only sort of like a mechanic that sort of helped on the whole car, so just learning everything. So it was a big step in my career when I got offered that role. So it was one that I was scared of doing, but I'm glad I did it because I learned so much.
So in that role, do you have to liaise quite a lot with the driver and sort of make changes and adjustments as to what the driver wants, or is it more of a case of just maintenance and sort of looking after the parts and making sure that the wear and tear is sufficient and they're not going to break down as soon as you put the car out on the the next session?
So there's a lot of things that you do and don't see, I guess, in F1, and one of those is the interaction with the driver. We have mechanics have quite a lot of interaction with the driver, whether it's banter or serious sort of problems with the car. They'll tend to go to obviously the race engineer, and then the race engineer will filter it down to us, which is the proper way of doing it, obviously. But they'll speak to you. They'll say, "Oh, this didn't quite feel right," and you sort of be like, "Oh yeah, I'll have a bit of an extra look at it." For example, with setup things, it's obviously a different ball game. That it goes through race engineer, like chief engineer, big meetings, and then it sort of filters down to us on job lists, and we change things appropriately.
Sort of briefings and debriefs, etc.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of debriefings and briefings and emails in F1.
Yeah, I'm amazed they don't drive the car by committee. Chris, you looked like you were about to say something then.
No, I was going to say. I suppose I can say something. So did you spend the rest of the time in Haas as gearbox mechanic, or did you move on from there before you went to Robo Race?
No, I did actually stay as gearbox mechanic. I really enjoyed that position when I was there. I did think about future prospects there, but my life circumstances changed a bit. I kind of sort of wanted to spend a bit more time at home.
Yeah.
So I decided to do something that required less travel in the end, because I think I travel from my first job. When I went for that 2 weeks work experience, they said this position is like full-time traveling. So I would have been traveling to all the races as an apprentice as well. So literally I've been traveling for 12 years of my life, non-stop. So I missed quite a lot of, I guess, my younger years in the UK. So a lot of my friends I missed, for example, family. So it's quite nice to sometimes take a couple of years out, step back, reevaluate everything, sort of catch up with people, and then, like I say, I think I will go back to F1 again for sure, but I don't know when.
If you could pick a team, who would you choose?
I'd probably say either McLaren or Red Bull. McLaren are obviously quite close to where I live, so that helps. Red Bull also, I've got a lot of friends at Red Bull, so maybe that would be a place that I'd like to work as well. They've got a good car, good team mentality.
It's pretty impressive putting that suspension back together. And what was it?
Christ, yeah, that was
12 minutes.
That was impressive. If I was there, I would have been absolutely. I don't know. It would have been an absolute flap, is what it would have been. Absolute panic stations. But they're the sort of moments that you train for. Do you know what I mean? They're the moments you think, right, this is it. This is my time to shine, and you get the credit for it. Credit where credit's due.
What's the feeling like when you're like qualifying or practice or something like that, and you're watching it, and the driver sticks the car in the wall, and especially for you being a gearbox guy, let's say it goes back end in first, and you know all the extra work that's got to go into this to try and get this right. What's that feel like?
It's absolute dread. That's what it is. It's a bit like when you do something really bad, but you don't realise till like 2 hours later, and all of a sudden it hits your stomach, and you're like, "Oh God!" You're like, "Oh no, I'm gonna have to go and clear this all up."
Yeah,
And I'm gonna be here all night.
To be fair, Grosjean's issues tended to be the front end, though, didn't it?
It's true, very true. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been quite harsh on Romain Grosjean over the years on this podcast, and we are surprised every year Haas re-announce Grosjean as a driver for the following season. He must have some really strong, discernible qualities that the casual fans and sort of even us, sort of more more into it fans that we just don't see in and around the team behind the scenes that are really valued by a team that want to keep him on.
Mm-hmm. I think from, like you say, from the fans' point of view, you don't really see too much of the interaction in the garage or behind the scenes with the drivers and the team. Personally, I really like Romain Grosjean. He's a really nice guy. He's a good driver. His driving can be interesting at times, for sure. I'd agree with that. But yeah, he's a really nice guy. He was always nice to us, sort of looked after us, treated us when we did, like, we sort of helped him out, did extra work, like spending the whole night like fixing the cars after we'd had a little crash or something. He'd always come round and make sure we were all right, everything like that.
Did he cook for you?
No. Oh, did he cook for us? He might have cooked. No, he did cook a cake, I think, once actually, and he brought it in. I think he did actually. He felt terrible, I think, one time. Obviously, he probably had a crash of some description, and he sort of
Sounds about right.
felt terrible. So he brought a load of cakes in for us all.
Does cake make
Cheer
it
us
better?
up. Absolutely. Yeah. Cake makes everything better.
I think we've found that tonight with the cheeky
We've got
monkey
a cake.
cake.
Yeah, we
We've
have.
got
There
a
is
cake.
there is cake on
Exactly.
the go.
Yeah.
I think we're normally a biscuit podcast, but since we came back into the room where we could all be in the same place at the same time, there's been a lot more cake. One thing I've always wanted to know, because obviously you're on the mechanics team, you're on the pit crew as well.
For Romain Grosjean, I was.
Yeah. What is the adrenaline rush like at a pit stop? Do you actually have time to think, or is it just you've got to switch your brain off and then
It's done.
It's a strange one. I think if you don't train for it, you will just go into sheer panic. It's that fast. Like, everything happens so fast, so quickly. People don't realise. Sort of all people see on the TV is sort of the camera comes onto the pit crew. They're already all there with the tyres, and then the car comes in and it leaves. But there's so much build up to that before. Sort of like, you can hear the driver on the radio, what's going on. So like, if he's saying, "Oh yeah, my tyres are starting to go off," etc., etc., you're kind of like on the edge of your seat a bit more. Obviously, you're like, "Oh, okay, he's probably going to come in soon, so I should probably sort of get ready." So you like mentally prepare yourself, I guess. But the way it works on the radio is you normally get you'll get a 30-second warning, basically, saying that the car's coming in. But then you'll get I can't remember how long was it? I think it's about 20 seconds, I think we have to get out there. So we get a 30-second warning, and then the 20-second is when we get up and we absolutely peg it. Grab the tyre, get out there as quick as you can, get the blanket off, do your business, get back in, sit down. And the adrenaline, I'm telling you now, it's the most ridiculous adrenaline I've ever had in my life doing that. It's insane.
What was your job
Absolutely insane.
What was your job on the pit crew?
I was right front wheel on.
Did you ever have any nightmares?
Once, I think I had a nightmare where I sort of cost the team seconds in the race, which I tell you now is the worst feeling in the world. When you've got a team of, I don't know, like 100, 180 people, along with millions of people watching the TV.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of pressure, so you really do have to prepare yourself mentally before you get out there. Like, You have to sit there, you sort of get yourself in the zone. You think, right, 20 seconds. And then from there on, it's just everything that you've trained for, you know? Everything that you've practiced for kind of just becomes like your instinct. So it just happens really quickly. You don't even have to think about it. Everything just flows. Everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone's got to be in the right place at the right time for everything to work, obviously. And then when that doesn't happen, as you can see, it goes horribly wrong, which you've seen in the past at like Mercedes, Red Bull, all different teams.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, talking of training, how much time each week is spent training for pit stops? Because obviously it's something that you've got to keep up. Because I assume the levels of fitness are massive.
Yeah, so we used to have 2 full-time personal trainers which looked after all of us, like everything, aches and pains, massages when you want them, sort of thing. And then also we had to do. So basically, the way it would work is we do practice once the car was all ready and done, and all the FIA legality stuff was done. We would do our pit stops, so it would be roughly around 15 to 20 pit stops in the morning, and then another 15 to 20 in the evening, and that was every day pretty much. So you're doing a lot of training, but we've also got to be quite careful, obviously, not to damage the car every time we're doing this practice, because you're putting mileage onto all sorts of things that you've got to be a bit careful of. And by mileage, I mean sort of, wear and tear. It's just us putting things on and off. So you've got to find a bit of a happy medium with that. But I think if you practice too much, it becomes a bit of a task. You've got to keep it in
fresh.
The middle. Yeah. You don't want to push everyone too much to the point of where they're getting injured, but you also don't want to do not enough practice that you don't know what you're doing. So it's hard work, but it's really satisfying and rewarding.
How is the relationship with other teams? Do you tend to sort of just stick more within Haas, or is there a good relationship between mechanics of other teams?
No, so it's just like a massive family, basically, is how I'd explain it. Everyone is very, very friendly to each other. Like, obviously, when we're not at the track, we'll go out. Like, other teams will go out with other mechanics, have dinner together, etc. So it was very social, very friendly. Obviously, there's that little bit of the competitive side between everyone. But I think anyone that works in F1 has that competitive nature. Do you know what I mean? And you'll have a bit of banter between each other, each team, pit stops, etc. Pit stops mainly because that's where we make a difference, as mechanics. That's where we can sort of make time, or we can brag, or we can not talk about it because something went wrong. But yeah, it's a very close knit paddock, I would say.
That's good to hear.
Even between, like, for example, I don't know, like the more foreign teams, so like Ferrari. They're all super, super friendly. We all socialise together,
That's good.
What's it like when Gunter Steiner's having a rant?
Just don't go near him. That's my advice.
Yeah.
Don't go near him.
Has he ever called you a wanker?
Oh, yeah, every day. He'd call me a wanker every day. I used to have some really good banter with Gunther. He was like one of my all-time favourite bosses to have, because he would be really, really personal with you. He'd make sure you're right, but he'd also sort of rip the absolute shit out of you sometimes, and you could give it back to him and he wouldn't mind. You can't, there's not many team principals you can do that to.
No.
If you've still got his number, give him a call. We'd love to get him on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Are you trying to tell me that people like Ron Dennis aren't too good for banter?
Could you imagine him as a podcast guest? Jesus.
Yeah, we might rather have Gunter on, wouldn't we?
Yes,
than Ron Dennis,
definitely.
Let's be honest, yeah. Although
Yeah,
everyone-
he's an absolute character. He's great.
Good. Yeah, because Drive to Survive obviously made a bit of a drama of things. We know there's a bit of creative editing going on as well as the other stuff. But I think what that's done is brought a load of casual fans to motorsport in general, but definitely into Formula One, because you get to see the personalities behind the scenes that only sort of the diehard fans would know, sort of like Gunter Steiner and your Cyril Abitaboul at Renault, and Christian Horner at Red Bull and stuff like that as well. And it's good to see. I mean, I don't know if you watched it, but you must have seen a lot of your friends and mechanics in Haas and other teams as well who are on the TV. Was that a bit weird?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think in the first series, in the first episode, I think I saw myself a couple of times, and it was kind of a bit weird, for sure. You're looking at it and you're like, oh, that's
There I
me.
am.
Yeah. It's very strange, like very, very strange. But it's also extremely cool to be a part of, and I think it's been quite pivotal to actually bringing in a lot more interest into Formula One, because I think there was maybe a lot of people that didn't watch Formula One at all before they watched Drive to Survive, and they thought, oh, this looks quite interesting. Sort of, there's a lot of characters. It's a lot more personal. It's not something that F1's seen, I think, for ever. That sort of personal sort of into the sort of nitty gritty sort of backstage of everything, which is obviously some of us get to see that, but some of the stuff that's been filmed, not even I saw, and I worked there, So like some of it was even a shock to me. So
Did it make it feel weird? When you had the Netflix guys hanging around recording stuff, did you notice them being there, or did they just blend in the end?
Sometimes, no, a lot of the time they blended in because you were just busy. You're 98% of the time in the garage, you're busy doing something. But obviously you would see them around and you'd think, I need to behave a bit more than I would normally. But it's quite interesting. You think, oh, Netflix, there'll be absolutely hundreds of cameras. No. There's like 3 blokes, I think it was, in our garage. That was it. 3 blokes filming it. So it's surprising the amount of good footage they can get out of such little staff, really. Which surprised me the most, actually, I think. Because I wasn't really expecting what they put out. I thought it was just going to be some sort of like generic F1 documentary, like they all are. Mm-hmm. Not particularly exciting. But they managed to make it interesting in their own way. So.
I thought it was going to be just like a year in review type thing, but on Netflix.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. My favourite Formula One book is Mark Priestley's The Mechanic. I thought that, to me, not knowing anything, gave me a better insight, I think, into Formula One than anything else I've read.
I've heard about that book, actually, but I haven't read it.
To be perfectly honest, it makes you all sound like rock stars. To be honest, like it's and it's a shame you haven't read it, because I was just going to ask if that's like a typical scenarios that go on within teams. But if you haven't read it, you're not going to know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, basically, for a book that's a lot concerned with driving, there is way too much booze in it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's a lot of work hard, play hard, for sure. I mean, the amount of hours we all put in during the week, it's nice, obviously, some nights to be able to sort of go out and have a couple of beers, or even the Sunday night, go out and have a lot of beers. It's good. It's really good to sort of blow off the steam, and I think that's one thing that is good about keeping a happy balance between sort of working and keeping it interesting. You've got to have time away from work as well, because you spend so much time in work when you're in F1. It's good to have the time off as well.
What's the like people side of it like in the paddock? Because I can't think of another sport like Formula One where you've got just like normal people like yourself, which you've got into engineering and then you worked your way up to working for a Formula One team, to like billionaires and princes walking around the paddock. Yeah, is that strange?
Yes, definitely. It's like the paddock is a really strange place. Outside of it, everything's normal. Like outside the little barrier where you beep your pass and you get in, it's very normal. As soon as you go through that gate, there's some sort of weird, like, I don't know, like persona about the entire paddock. Like everything's all of a sudden like very extravagant. There's celebrities walking around, like you say, just like wandering about. There's princes. There's all sorts of things going on, and all of a sudden you walk in there and you're like, "What's going on? Like, is this real?" And you basically, I didn't really used to spend too much time out in the paddock. A lot of media people, for example, do. So they'll do a lot of chatting to people and bumping into celebrities. But as a mechanic, you didn't really spend much time out of the garage. So if you did get to meet one of the celebrities, it was really, really cool. And sometimes they would come into the garage as well, obviously, which was even cooler, which meant we didn't really have to stop working and we could meet them and we could show them around the cars, for example, and showing them a bit of our world and them telling us a few stories about theirs.
Did you meet anyone that got you a bit starstruck?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Who did I meet? Met a few, to be fair. I met Gordon Ramsay.
Did he call you a wanker?
No, he didn't actually. Quite polite, for sure. Swears a lot, not potentially at anyone, but just in general. But that's motorsports like that as well. We swear a lot, so I think he was at home. But yeah, Gordon Ramsay, Kit Harington, Pharrell. I'm trying to think of some more. Like some of the X-Men came in. Who else have we had in? Loads of other Game of Thrones people. Usain Bolt. I actually met what's his name? One of the ex-presidents of the United States. I can't remember his name now.
Bill
Clinton? I think it was Clinton, yeah. He was at the American Grand Prix and I actually had a picture with him. That was quite weird.
Nice.
That is a strange one.
That's really cool. Do you have to call him Mr. President?
Yeah, no, I didn't actually. Because I was British, I probably didn't really give him as much respect as I should have. But I was just like, oh yeah, can I get a picture? He was like, yeah, no worries. And there was like 3 or 4 like suited bodyguards around him, sort of making sure nobody touched him.
Cool. There's one thing that you might be able to answer. It's a question that we've had a couple of times from listeners. It's something that I've been wondering myself. It's about the F2 side of things. With it being a spec series, you get teams that are obviously better than other teams. What is it about different F2 and even F3 teams that makes the difference? You know, sort of why do you see the same names up at the front like ART and Carlin, and then others like MP and Campos down at the back when everybody's working from what is meant to be the same equipment?
I think it's a lot of it's the little things that a lot of teams might not spend as much time in doing. And I know that sounds quite simple, and you know they should be able to do that as well. But it also depends on who you've got working there. Like mechanics. If you've got mechanics that aren't particularly interested in putting loads of effort into doing their job, then you won't get an as good car, you know? Like just the tiny little things. Like, I don't know, bodywork taping, like certain fixings that were sort of bad for aero, for example. Everything. There's just loads.
Setup knowledge as well?
Setup knowledge is massive, for sure. And obviously, I think the teams that have had very successful drivers will obviously do better because they can farm their setup, or they can analyze things better with the better driver, if that makes sense. A lot of smaller teams won't have the ability to sort of sign drivers like that, I guess. And I think good drivers will always go for.
Oh,
we lost you for a second there.
Oh, did you? Sorry.
That's okay. You're back.
Yeah. It's got that stigma sort of a little bit of where I think it keeps sort of getting worse and worse as it goes on, if that makes sense. The same teams that are in it.
Yeah.
So like they'll just the good teams the teams that got the good drivers at the very start have got a head start against all the other teams, and it just keeps going up and up and up, and they keep getting more and more and more info, like faster and faster laps from faster drivers, to the point of where you can sort of a lot of setup stuff that a lot of other teams won't, because they won't have as experienced drivers giving them as good feedback, for example.
I guess that kind of explains why you always see the usual suspects at the back of the grid.
Yeah, I think it's hard for teams, the small teams as well, because they'll never sign sort of big name drivers or things like that, because either they may be charging more for the drive, because obviously you have to charge drivers to drive these cars. If you have a better driver, then obviously you can charge more, but they'll have more money from sponsors, for example. And I think some teams may be bottlenecked into taking worse drivers that will give them more money. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Still trying to work out where Mahiva Raghunathan got his sponsorship from last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is that. There was a picture. I don't know if you've seen it from the Hungarian Grand Prix this weekend of Lando Norris helping to take the McLaren apart with his mechanics because he felt like he'd let them down because of the race. So he stayed behind, and instead of getting a plane when all the other drivers were jetting off to wherever it was they were going, he stayed behind and helped them take the car apart. Did you ever get anything like that with any drivers in any of the formulas?
I don't know. Roman Grosjean used to help take the car apart, just not in the garage. Sorry, somebody had to.
Yeah, I think it's I think Lando Norris, hats off to him. He's a really nice bloke. I mean, I've worked on his car actually when I was at Carling. I ran him in the British F3 car at Pembrey when it was like -1 or something stupid.
Wow.
And he was pounding round at Pembrey for 2 days, I think it was, and he was an awesome bloke then. He was just a young kid then. I think he was like 16 maybe. He was tiny. He looked like a little kid basically.
Still
You're
does.
like, yeah, it was just quite amazing. You're like sort of strapping this guy into this race car, and you're like, Christ, like he must be talented if he's driving this. But yeah, I think drivers helping like that, you never see it for sure. And I think Lando doing that shows his commitment to the team, not just long term, but sort of his commitment to, I think, F1 in general, really. He's not taking on that sort of driver lifestyle where you sort of jet in, jet out, and he's actually spending time with the team. And I think it shows in the team morale as well, I'll be honest. I think it's quite important as well, really. One of the things that drivers should do more, I think. But like you say, I've never really seen it before. I think maybe I've had it a couple of times in Formula 2, for example, where maybe they've just helped sort of clean the car, for example. But the hands-on stuff's obviously can be a bit sketchy at times because they're not qualified mechanic, but they end up doing more damage than good. But the sentiment's there, like you say, and you can give them simple tasks to do for sure.
Do you think it's that sort of dedication which has made like the jump he seems to have had this year? Because it's like last year he was kind of fairly well put away by Carlos Sainz, but it just doesn't feel like that this year, does it?
No, I think he's come on a lot, and I think that's due to maybe his age as well. I think maybe he's grown up a little bit more as well, and he's taking it a bit more seriously. I mean, I don't think everyone realised sort of how talented he actually was when he was younger. And as he's grown up, he's actually got even better. He's thrived more, like not just physically and within his driving ability, but mentally as well, I think. And you can see that for sure. Like that jump from those two things, I mean, were great. And obviously it helps that there was a slot free for him to do such a thing. So it's always about being in the right time at right place at the right time sometimes, I think, as well.
No, that is. I suppose that is the best way of putting it. Really, I've run out of words. I'm not good at. It's been a long day for me today.
Yeah, there's one more question I think I had for you was because you went through the apprenticeship and you started obviously a junior team, sort of worked your way up to Formula One. Do you have any advice for anybody who might be thinking about getting into a career in Formula One, or anybody who might be looking at doing engineering?
You're too old, Flood.
Not me. I'm thinking listeners.
And too tall.
I would say as long as you've got a genuine passion for motorsport and cars, you'll go a long way. And if you've got a hard-working mentality, I think that's very important. And not just doing your job, but going beyond and doing other things as well that maybe you wouldn't have thought that you should do, but you do them. That's what I did anyway. I sort of went above and beyond, tried to do as much as possible. And I think what I did with going out of my way to try and find a team to do work experience with before I went to college, for example, is really important because you can see whether you want to do it or not as well. I mean, you can actually see it from the inside. So it's not just good for the prospects of getting a job, but maybe if you actually want to do it for sure. But yeah, that's what I would say.
Good
Do
stuff.
work experience, try get a job. and get lucky like I did.
3 definite rules to live by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reese, thank you so much for taking time out and coming on. It's been great to chat to you, and maybe we'll bump into each other again on one of Matt's iRacing challenges.
Oh yeah, for sure. No worries. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that is great. Reese Smith, thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Cheers, mate. See you later.
Thank you.
See you later. Have a good one, guys. Bye.
Bye.
We have jump cut, and here's that shunt that we trailed before that incredible interview with Reese.
Yay.
Very good.
And thank you again, Reese, for coming on.
Now it's shunting time.
Yes.
Who's this week's shunt by?
We've done
We've
this.
done this. We've done it. We've done it.
I was born
Yes.
Yay.
in 1958.
Right.
Okay. Bernie Eccleston's Formula One career was in 1958.
Bruce Dickinson.
So this is someone who is 62 this year?
I was based
Yes.
in Switzerland.
Right.
Okay.
I was based in Switzerland.
No one's from Switzerland, really, are they? It's only entities that are based there.
No, Romain Grosjean apparently was born in Switzerland, but he's French now.
Denies
so.
it.
Max Verstappen's technically Belgian.
He is.
Lando Norris is half Belgian.
Schumacher is the only world champion not to use me since 1998 to present.
It's going to be like
Schubert.
Schubert. Yeah.
Helmets.
Yes.
Helmut Schubert.
Helmut's Marco.
Helmut Schubert, that well-known crash hat
Well,
designer.
isn't Hamilton, doesn't he use Bell helmets?
He does.
Yeah.
But he probably has used Schubert at some point.
Okay.
A lot of them are tied to team. So like Albon, when he switched to Red Bull, he had to switch helmet manufacturer because Red Bull are contractually obliged to have, I think, an RI.
Okay.
And Verstappen doesn't like the RI. And Albon is a number 2.
Go on. Okay, fine.
I think Charles Leclerc's a Bell.
Okay.
Is that your guess?
Yeah, one of my colleagues at work used to bike in. He has a Bell helmet, and somebody actually wrote "end" on the Bell sticker on it, and he didn't notice for 6 weeks.
Good.
Wow.
I'm glad.
My cycling helmet's a Bell, and I keep it hidden.
Are you going with helmet?
Bell helmet.
Schubert helmet.
Schubert helmet. Helmut Schubert.
I formally entered Formula One in 2003.
So it must have been like an official
Entry.
Yeah, an
Yeah.
official supplier with a team.
I was also involved in the European Space Agency.
Which
Would
is
they have
at
built the
CERN.
helmets for the space people?
That would make
I have
sense.
fragments of Romain Grosjean's front wing.
Astronauts need
Kit.
kit,
Yeah.
helmets, safety gear.
Yeah.
Do you know what? I reckon it's probably one of those things where there's actually way more crossover between F1 and space shit than you probably realise.
Things that go fast, and you got to wear protective gear.
Yeah, there's probably quite a bit.
I was also involved with the Olympics.
Cycling.
Yeah, cycling, luge.
Yeah, luge
Anything
is a
like
good
that,
thing. Yeah.
Short track speed skating.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wear helmets.
They
Yeah.
were strange helmets. They were like
They've
like
got like a sort of
cones.
weird like sperm tail at the
yeah,
back.
they have,
Yeah,
yeah.
don't forget all the BMX Red Bull style events. You know,
Yeah.
sort of freestyle on fire crap, usually presented by Christian Stevenson. DJ Extreme.
I think we're
I
definitely
better
in
guess,
there.
please.
Sticking with the helmet.
It's going to be
Or some sort of fireproof protective gear.
What would be Swiss there? Where's Dainese from?
thought they were Italian.
Yeah, I think they
Yes,
are.
I think you're right. Alpine Star, I think, are...
They're somewhere near the Alps.
Yes.
I want to say German.
I think they're German.
Alpine Star sounds like an early 2000s like pop punk band.
With the Alpine Stars, yeah, some sort of Europop.
Yeah.
Which would leave
Or like some 41.
Sparko
I was
are
thinking
British?
more like
Yeah, and they've been around since the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah.
Visibly in F1 since the 90s.
I'm going to rush it. I'd like a guess.
I don't have any advance on Schubert.
What about Seabelt, the safety belt that they use in the cars?
Do you know what? I'm not up on the safety belts, I must admit.
I think they're either Sparko or Seabelt, but I don't know where Seabelt will be from.
Sounds,
I mean, that
sounds,
would be something I imagine they would use in the
it
Large
sounds
Hadron
Germanic,
Collider.
so it could be Swiss.
Yeah?
But yeah, I mean, space people are going to need to be tucked
They're
into
going to be
their
strapped in, aren't
Yeah,
they? Yeah.
yeah.
space harnesses.
You can't have floating space people.
Do
Space
you know what?
harnesses.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
For a
space
bit of
harnesses.
variation.
Yeah.
Space harness. I began my career in 1983 in Europe before moving to Africa in 1991.
Yeah, whatever.
This is right. So this is interesting. So it's existed since '58. It's existed since '58. But what was it? It's began its career in motorsport. Did you say?
Began its career in Europe.
In Europe.
I began my career in 1983 in Europe before moving to Africa in
So what the fuck was it
1991.
doing between '58 and '83? Is
Because-
this a person?
It could be a person becoming 25. I mean, you know, we've been going for companies, but that's now sort of opened it up, and it could be 100 men or more. And it moved to Africa.
Jesus, mate,
Uh-huh.
come on.
And
I mean,
I like-
Don't make me thump the desk.
in our interview, as our like loyal followers have just listened to, there was quite the interview stopping joke from you that I noted. So that's 2 yellow cards, I'm afraid.
It's been a long week, and it's only Monday. But we could be looking at a person now if their career started when they were 25 in Europe and then moved to Africa. I mean,
I think I can break the case for you with the next clue.
I think you might need to.
Yeah.
Brace yourself, Flood.
Okay.
I wanted to be an ice hockey player.
Happy Gilmore?
Flood looks unimpressed with my clue.
Is that it? There's no further information.
Nope.
Just ice hockey, right?
Number 9. I am Finnish.
Right.
There is a spaffer, and I'm going to change it slightly because I think it's too easy. The spaffer.
So someone whose career a Finn whose career started at 25 and then they went to Africa. I ain't got a fucking clue. I don't know whether we're looking for a driver. I don't know whether we're looking for a team principal.
And Schumacher was the first world champion since Since when? To not use me?
What?
That one of the first clues. It's that fucking guy who does all the bloody driver training.
1998.
I can't remember his name. Schumacher was the first world champion to not use me since 1998.
Yeah.
Or the only world
sorry.
champion.
The only world champion
Yeah.
from
He's
98 to present.
Yeah, it's a Finnish guy, and he does fucking driver training. Kimi Räikkönen goes to him every fucking winter just for a refresher course. He puts people in fucking bog standard cars and goes, "Go on then, off you go." It's like a piece of shit. And then he goes, "I'm sure he's from Finland."
It sounds very Finnish. It does sound like a Finnish thing to do.
He puts them in like fucking diesel Astras and something like that, and just teaches them how to like car control with a basic car, and then they move on to like something a bit more sporty. And he
Has
goes,
this guy been on Top Gear?
I think so.
This is ringing a bell.
No, I'm going to help here because you're just fucking going down the wrong path.
Right.
But you're closer than we have been.
By suggesting it's a person.
By suggesting it's a Finnish person, like the clue says.
No, there was more in there. There was more in there that you were saying that was closer to who this is than any bell you can possibly think of. My last race was Monza in 2016. I don't know whether this will help you or not, but the fact that my last race at Monza in 2016 was my last of anything.
So this is something that ceased to exist after Monza in 2018.
2016 was that?
2016, sorry.
What ceased to exist at Monza in 2016?
Got a clue.
Well, maybe not at the circuit, but like I didn't do an awful lot after that. It's kind of like 2016 was kind of the cut-off point for me.
So
Somebody who's dead?
somebody who died in September 2016. I've got an out.
I'm not really bringing much.
I worked for McLaren. That's your spaffer.
How old? Mika Häkkinen's not 62,
Not that
is he?
old, no.
I'm out.
Heikki
Yeah,
Kovalainen's not 62.
No. Mid-30s?
That was as fast as he drove.
Yeah. He's probably still driving around that. Did
He's-
you know if you
he's-
spotted him weekend just gone? He's still doing his victory lap from 2008.
He's in battle with Max Chilton just for that last points paying place.
Yeah, I have nothing to
Yeah.
contribute.
Are we giving up on this
I
one?
think so yeah, why not?
I am Dr. Aki Hinster. He was the doctor from McLaren. Arafat put a little message to the bottom saying the most inspirational. Arafat's a doctor as well, just for people that don't know. The most inspirational doctor I've ever known, and the perfect mentor. If anyone's interested, because it's a really interesting story, Arafat came on Must See Audio. It was just before lockdown, if you want to go back through the Must See Audio ones, and he worked with Aki at McLaren on driver performance. So they were taking like swabs and stuff off drivers, see what they needed and things like that. And it was a really interesting podcast, like what went into getting them out. He was especially for British listeners, he was involved when Jenson Button and Lewis Hamilton were in the team.
Yeah.
This is when they were doing those things. That's why I've got Jenson Button's spit in the fridge. So.
That's why, not in case you just fancy cloning at some point.
Oh, that's bound to happen.
But that's a good one.
That was a really
and
good
total
one. That
unheard of from me, from my point of view. Never heard of him before.
Threw us out completely because we were all over the place with that. How do you send in total shunts?
You can send me a private message on Twitter or Instagram at atotalshunt.
And to get on the reserve list, 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, because I still need others in case Lee, I don't know, mutates into pure energy or something.
Sorry, again, if you're one of these people that wants to sort of leave Twitter and stuff like that, I'm a total shunt on Parler as well. I don't use it much, but you can message me on it.
Right. To get in touch with the rest of us, at 3legs4wheels on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter. And individually we are also
At Sean Cowper.
At Flood21.
and at Pablo100. Right. Formula Lee 2020 style. The new game is out, so we're going to be...
Can't do that anymore.
No, they haven't got the rights. Baby Shark. Yeah, new game, new rules. Well, not new rules for this season, new way of doing it. Because the calendar is all over the place. And
Well, the calendar's not all over the place. The calendar's stayed as it is.
the F1 calendar is slightly different to how we were
Yes.
expecting it to be this year. So, what we're going to do
We're
is...
working off the Mayan calendar as part of the new regs.
So what we're going to do is, instead of racing at the next week's circuit, we're going to start at the beginning with Australia, and it's going to be two weekly challenges all the way through for 21 races.
So have we got 42 races till Christmas?
42 weeks
Wow.
till the next game. We might have a week off at Christmas or two. But this year, we've got prizes.
Exciting.
A very nice company called Scott 3D are offering a prize of a 3D printed circuit map.
And is this weekly or is this...
This is for every fortnightly race. Every race
Sorry,
is
that's
going
what
to...
I mean, yeah. For
every
every
race is
fortnightly
gonna
winner.
Yeah, every fortnightly winner gets a 3D printed circuit map from Scott 3D. They're available to buy as well at $9.95 each. I'll post the link on the website, and if you use the code 3L4W when you're buying it, you get a 5% discount.
That'll do.
They do look pretty cool as well.
Yeah, they're a good size. You can either wall mount them or put them on your desk. And hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, if you send us some through, we'll have some in the pod room.
That sounds good.
So we'll stick some photos up of the ones that he sends us. But yeah, we are kicking off with Australia, as is the usual start to a normal F1 season.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a 2-week challenge, as they all are this season, and we might as well start it in the Merc.
In the time trial and the Mercedes.
In the time trial mode, in the Mercedes, in the dry. You can send your times in if you're on Xbox or on PC. Take a screen grab of the timesheet and DM me on Twitter at 3legs4wheels, or send them on email 3legs4wheels@gmail.com, or I'll set something up on the Discord for anyone to post the times there. If you're on PlayStation, you can do all the same, but you can also add me as a friend, Pabstar, and I'll be able to see your times on the Friends leaderboard. So you've got until 6 o'clock on Monday. I need to see a calendar because I don't know what the date is.
3rd of August?
Oh, that's true.
Monday the
actually,
3rd of August. To get the times into me, that's 6 o'clock UK time, not 6 o'clock wherever you are in the world, because I've had people sending them after the podcast has been released.
Yeah.
So good luck, and winner gets a prize this week, and there might be some prizes at the end of the season as well.
And for newcomers, it's points for the top 20, isn't it?
It is points for the top 20. 20 points for a win, down to 1 point for 20th place. And we'll see who becomes this year's champion.
And maybe do a prize for the champions if we can get hold of one.
I think we'll be doing a prize for the champion, if not the top 3 this season.
Good, let's hope so.
We'll
Be nice
what
to
we
see
can do.
some new names as well as the old favourites in there as well.
Yeah, definitely. All the details will be on the website if you want to catch up on that. It'll be in the games section under Formula League 2020. And we're going to have some F1 League racing coming soon as well. We now have a... well, he's calling him... Stephen Terra is calling himself 3 Legs 4 Wheels technical director, but I'm calling him racing assistant.
We technically need some direction.
That is very true. So our racing assistant will be coming up with the plan for leagues, because we're running those for PC, Xbox, and PS4 throughout the year as well.
Okay.
On top of 3 Legs 4 Wheels iRacing League, and of course the 3 Legs 4 Wheels Extreme Esports team.
Cool.
We've got an esports team.
Loads
doing
to
all right,
get
yeah.
involved in.
Yeah.
Yep, there's going to be absolutely loads this year.
Yeah, we're like a summer fate of a podcast.
Bagsy not going on your lucky dip.
No, but you're going to get a go on my coconut shy.
Thanks again to Reece Smith for joining us tonight. Great chat with him. And,
Fantastic guest.
Yep. And he might well come on the show again
Start
soon.
that again, because I should have said, but my coconuts aren't shy. That's
Too
what I
late.
should have said.
Too late.
That's what I
You
should
shouldn't have been
said.
shy with
Hindsight
your
is a
joke
wonderful
first time
thing.
around.
Yeah.
And we don't want to see his hind. We'll see you
Damn.
next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Whatever.